You already gave us one.
Okay. Oh, is that the email
Did
one?
he say in a spare minute?
Yeah, if you have a little.
What's that?
There's
Landon?
no spare minutes. Just saying.
Well, you got 5 right now.
That ain't even enough. Hey, I got 2 of them now.
Okay. You can toss that one then.
Did you need one?
I filled my top, or
I don't know what.
oh, now it prompts you to log back in to the server. Check that.
It just said get on there.
What's that? Mine's not even. Oh, update contact info. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I was like 99% sure I pushed it back right, but I would hate to be the one that broke the YouTube only like the second time.
I just put my phone number in there.
I don't think you can break YouTube, Myra.
Well, I can definitely
work?
break our stream.
Oh.
Did it work?
I can't just break
Yeah,
all
it's
of
okay.
YouTube. It's going down. I can now hear myself being repeated through the YouTube video.
We'll have to bring that up under discussion under the city manager's report. Because Chris, I thought maybe we should go down and get some of that raw water off that tap off the river. If people want to do extra water and from raw water. Because it won't, doesn't go through any meters.
Well, we gotta keep track.
Well, I'll be honest that
Remember?
Sean, did we find if Aaron was calling in?
Aaron is calling it.
well, there's still water there for us.
What's
but
new?
Yeah.
I think Gilbert,
You only did it about 13 times. It's terrible.
be better than not watering their stuff. But I think Austin they were working on another idea too that might work out.
What's the date?
I
17.
agree.
Yeah,
agree.
17th.
Yeah, Sanders is pretty good. Pretty big. I've worked with him before.
Yeah, I like him.
I know.
We'd argue on some things, but
We're never gonna agree 100% on
nothing
this.
big. He's a good guy.
That's why you have 7 different voices.
We can't join yet?
Evidently miss your TV.
Yes.
You didn't give me an option to join.
Do you have the meeting up?
Do I have what?
The meeting up?
I'm live. I have it up, yeah. I started the meeting.
It won't let me join.
Now what's that one?
I don't log out long yet.
It just,
Yes, because
let me refresh this.
I stopped Aaron. Daryl, I started it just a couple moments ago.
Here we go. It's good now.
You're good?
Yeah, you can join.
I thought I was in there.
Oh, make sure you joined because she just started it.
What, do you have to join?
Just, yeah.
Yeah.
Go to refresh or meetings. Go to meetings. And then refresh it just in case.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know I
There you
had
go.
to do
Join the
that.
meeting. There you go.
Didn't know I had to do that. All this new stuff.
Yeah.
Too old for this stuff, Chris.
What's that?
I'm too old for this stuff.
Oh, yes. And, keep it written now.
All right, guys, it's 7:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Linda, can you do the roll call, please?
Mayor Terry Wyckoff. Vice Mayor Jacqueline Wells.
Here.
Councilmember Aaron Durst.
Here.
Councilmember Daryl Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Davari Martinez.
Here.
Councilmember Linda Smith.
Here?
Councilmember Chris Weisenberg.
Here.
All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion. Go ahead.
I move to approve the agenda of May 17th, 2022, as presented.
Second.
Motion's been, I'm sorry. A motion has been seconded and motioned. Sorry, I lost my thoughts. Any discussion? All right. Will you open online voting, Lynn?
Online voting is open.
Thank you.
Councilmember Martinez.
Here, or yes.
Thank you. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving on to the approval of the minutes of April 26th special council meeting.
Who was here?
Thank you.
Was I here? I think if I was here.
Okay, hold on.
It's April 14th, isn't it?
It was April 26th.
I was here, I guess.
Hold on one.
I think I was.
All right.
Do you want me to check? Do you want me to check to see who was here?
That would be great. Thank you,
Please.
Lynn.
Can't remember.
Well, I know I was here, so I'm going to move to approve the city council special minute meetings. No, here I go again. Special meeting minutes of April 26, 2022 as presented.
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. We'll wait for Lynn.
I think I was here, but I can't remember.
Okay. All right, so. I can't see my minutes. Oh, I can't find the minutes. You might, hold on 1 second. Let me go to another place. Here.
We could probably pull it up.
Yeah, get another way.
Dabari, Chris,
Yes.
Harry,
Okay.
Daryl,
Yes.
Linda.
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry. All right.
Okay, so let me take them and open online voting.
Thank you. I couldn't remember.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 5 yeas and 1 abstain. Vice Mayor Wells abstained.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Moving down to the approval of the May 3rd minutes. Councilmember Martinez?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 3rd, 2022,
Okay.
regular
Second.
meeting.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, can you open online voting?
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Okay, moving down to the public hearing. I'm going to open a public hearing for the resolution to authorize the amendment of the fiscal year 2021-2022 municipal budget to reflect correct expenditures and revenues. Anybody that would like to come speak on this matter? Okay. We'll close the public hearing and move on to a second public hearing for the ordinance for second reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amending Title 10, Chapters 10.02, 10.72, and 10.82 bicycles and scooters. Is there anybody that would like to discuss this? All right. Come on up.
Do y'all have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, great.
All right. We'll close that public hearing and we'll move down to citizens' participation. This is a time set aside for the public. We allow 5 minutes under the citizens' participation with, but it has to be on anything that is not on the current agenda. And during this time, we also asked if the citizens come up. We do not usually respond to you when you come and talk. It's because we are just hearing of this information, so we need time to process it ourselves. But just do know that we are listening to you. So do we have anybody that would like to come speak about something that's not on the agenda? Okay, moving down to City Council reports. Board of Adjustments, Councilmember Durst.
I have nothing to report. There is not scheduled another meeting that I'm aware of until something comes up for a meeting.
Thank you. Moving down to COG, this is Mayor Wycomb's, but he is out right now, and there is a meeting tomorrow in Saratoga. They have a problem with possibly not being able to make a quorum, so they were hoping one of the council members could go from Rollins.
Saratoga?
Yeah.
I'll be there.
All right. And obviously, all of you are welcome to attend. Thank you, Dabari. Lynn, would you I'll let them know that he will be attending?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, and I have the agenda, so I will forward the agenda. I can give it to you tonight as a hard copy.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Moving down to DDA Main Street, Councilwoman Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would tell you that I don't have a DDA Main Street meeting report tonight, but we do have staff in Richmond, Virginia right now at a National Main Street Conference, so we'll have good things to report when she gets back.
Moving down to the Rollins Planning Commission, Councilmember Weisenberg.
Yeah, we've had a couple meetings. In the agenda, we'll discuss it a little bit later, but it's Title 19 was recommended to pass in the changes. It's going to talk about secondary buildings. There's some setback changes allowed or for that. It's going to be recommended. Title 16, I believe it is. We're removing the RV stuff out of Title 16. It's going to go into, I believe, Title, or under its own deal, I think, is with aerial. It'll be in 15. And then it'll follow the NFPA 1194 standards there, is what's going to be recommended for that. And then we heard the special use permit for the 307 horse racing, and it'll be in front of us tonight also, and it's recommended also to be passed too. So,
Thank you. Urban Systems Committee, Councilmember Gardner.
No update.
Great. Moving down to reports and information. The first item is an update on the City of Rollins financial year 2020 audit. Sean?
So for the audit, we have on the phone with us Jeremy Drummond, and if we could get him connected in, and he's going to give us our financial audit report. He's got the final one.
Yay.
Hi, thanks, Sean. So my name is Jeremy Dumont. I was part of the financial statement audit with Andrew Wen as one of the audit managers at Atlas CPAs. I'm based out of our Longmont, Colorado office, but I was actually able to come up to Rollins back in February with another team member. And a lot of my focus was actually on the internal control side, while Drew focused on the financial statement side. So the 2020 audit was started out fairly slowly, which was kind of expected with the first year audit. There was some difficulties just getting in touch and getting information from the prior auditor, but we were able to work through those and got everything up and going. And then another challenge we had to start the audit was we had to go back and post journal entries for both 2018 and 2019 to make sure our opening balances tied out to the prior audit. So that ended up resulting in some additional time that we weren't expecting, but it's fairly standard for first year audits like this. With all that, we do expect the 2021 audit to go much more smoothly and quicker now that we kind of have a good relationship with clients and we understand the systems and everything else like that. It should go much better, which I'll talk about in a minute. In terms of the actual financial results, we noted there was an increase in the general fund of about $4.8 million off of $15.6 million of revenue, while other governmental funds decreased in total by about $600,000. A large portion of the increase in the general fund was due to the state sales tax distribution, and we noted there were some large distributions that hadn't been as timely as in prior years. So we made sure those were accrued as a receivable with revenue in the current year, which resulted in a large increase. For the enterprise funds, the water fund decreased by about $730,000. Most of that relates to depreciation expense, about $1.5 million. There's also about $200,000 of interest expense, whereas the sewer fund is more or less flat, with a slight increase in the fund balance this year. The landfill increased by about $400,000 off of $1.8 million of revenue, whereas recycling decreased by roughly $23,000. We kind of expected the decrease in the enterprise funds during 2020, and that COVID hit hard. It's back in March of 2020, so it was right in the middle of everything going on. However, we do expect the funds to bounce back moving forward. They remain healthy, but a majority of fund enterprise balances consist of capital assets, which are included in net investment and capital assets, which you can find in the proprietary statement of net position on page 16 of the financials. On the internal control side, we did have some internal control findings, which were consistent with the prior year audit. Both of them were classified as significant deficiencies, consistent with 2019. The first one was the capital asset identification. We recommend that the city work on developing more sound internal control policies to allow accurate reporting of financial information, such as capital assets, accruals, etc. And then the other finding related to the financial statement preparation, which basically we were utilized more than typical to help us assist the city with preparation of financials. And the large part of that was there wasn't someone available at the time with the capacity to be able to draft those without our assistance. However, we do expect this to be able to go away potentially as soon as the 2021 audit, if not the 2022 audit, as we had a great relationship with Bev and definitely think that she'd be able to potentially help out with that moving forward. She was great assistance with the audit overall, and she also was a big help with drafting the financial statements. Another kudos that we want to give out is Daniel Izzo, who was also a very big help with helping us go through reviewing the draft financials once we initially sent them over there, and then finalizing those. So we were able to issue those back in April. And just to follow up, we really enjoyed working with Bev, Sean, and Daniel, and look forward to working with them and the rest of the group for the 2021 and upcoming 2022 audit. In terms of the 2021 audit, we're actually ready to go, and we expect to be able to jump in within the next week or two. And as soon as we can get a draft of the or the initial trial balance to get going. We have a team ready to go, and given, as I noted before, we fully expect the audit to go much smoother, and if we don't have any overruns and we're able to have everything as requested, we expect to be able to issue a draft as soon as early to mid-July is our goal right now. And then we likely jump straight into the 2022 audit. And then just to wrap up, we really enjoy working with City, and we're here to answer any questions. As I noted before, Drew is much more involved with the financial side, so if there's any questions you have that I can't answer, we will certainly get back to you. Let's take notes and get back to you as soon as we can.
Great, thank you, Jeremy. Does anybody have any questions? Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, thank you. Jeremy, my only question to you, and I think you addressed a couple of items, were there any material facts or items found that you made notes of, or did we basically pass this audit with your two caveats on capital and the other?
Well, we did have some journal entries. A lot of those are typically expected with a city this size. We did not have any material findings.
Okay.
As I noted, we did have those two standard recurring significant deficiencies, which honestly we do see that quite often. But those we do not expect to potentially lead to a material misstatement, financial statements. And then the journal entries that we had, I think quite a few of those were probably just fiscal entries for financial reporting purposes. So this is more or less reclassification journal entries.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I got a question.
Councilmember Martinez?
Are we gonna receive a hard copy of these, of your findings?
Sean, I believe, received the electronic version this afternoon, or maybe it was yesterday, I forget where it was. But you should be able to get those as soon as Sean can print those off or send them over.
I'll print it for, does anyone else want to print off? Or?
Please.
Well, and the reason I asked the question is that normally the auditors would come here and report to us, and during that time they would give us a hard copy of the information that they have. And so, and that's kind of important to me.
I apologize that we weren't able to get up there. I know Lonnie Woodley, the managing partner of the firm, was traveling this week, and Andrew, I think, also had some things going on. And given the drive, it seems most efficient to do this over Zoom. For me, it's about a 4-hour drive from Longmont, Colorado. But we would likely plan on attending potentially later this summer when we issue the final 2021 report.
All righty, thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I would just point out, we probably would not pass or accept the audit report until we do have that final copy, Councilman. That's what I was thinking anyway.
Okay. I just want to thank you, your firm, for getting on this so quickly. We definitely appreciate the good work you guys have done.
Thank you.
All right, anything else before I move on? All right, next item on reports and information is the annual cleanup day, Saturday, June 4th. Myra?
Yes, I just wanted to remind council and the community that we do have our annual cleanup taking place. You meet at Depot Park at 9 a.m. and we'll go around the community cleaning up trash. And we have one other really cool thing happening. We are partnered with the Continental Divide Trail Coalition. As we all know, the Continental Divide Trail is a really cool asset of our community. And we're partnering with them to mark on sidewalks on the Continental Divide Trail through our community so it's more visible. So if people want to do that spray painting, you just need to pre-register with Patty Hayes so she can get you your training. But yeah, we'd love to see you all there, and there is free lunch. So come down for hamburgers or hot dogs cooked by the fire department and help make our community beautiful.
Great, thank you. Any questions on that? All right, we'll move on to education enforcement on parking. Chief Michael Ward.
Madam Vice Mayor and Council, Mike Ward from the Police Department. We've had a number of complaints recently about parking within the city of Rollins. A number of these complaints have focused on the Mountain View neighborhood, although the issues are covering the entire city. This has been a topic that has been brought up in urban systems and discussed. Some of the problems have to do with the width of the streets in the neighborhood, then various parking offenses, including people parking too close to the corners, blocking sidewalks, unregistered or derelict vehicles parked on the streets. Those same vehicles parked on private property is also an issue, but that's a code enforcement issue. So we've come up with a plan. We're going to address this citywide. We are, however, going to start with the Mountain View neighborhood, since that's where we have received recent complaints. The fairest way to do this, in my opinion, is a 3 or 4 phase approach. Last week, we went out with one of the lieutenants, Myra, the PIO for the city, Cody from Public Works, and Austin, the city engineer, to take a look at the neighborhood. We took note of a number of different offenses that were occurring there. So we're going to engage in an education campaign with the public, letting them know what city ordinance and state statute have to say about parking offenses. We're working with Myra. We've put together a new version of a flyer that she had previously put out educating the community on parking offenses. This one's a little bit more applicable to the specific offenses in this neighborhood. We're going to be using social media and some other means to engage in this education campaign with the public. We also took a little bit of a look at the engineering up there, markings, signage, widths of streets, and so forth. What kind of signs are currently there? What kind of signs may be more applicable? Once we roll through those first 2 phases, then we're going to start issuing warnings. We really enjoy working with the public we serve to get compliance with the laws as opposed to just rolling right into an enforcement phase. The 4th phase will, however, be an enforcement phase after the education, looking at the engineering and the warning phases in those neighborhoods. And as I mentioned, some of the more common offenses that we're seeing up there have to do with parking within a specific distance of corners. Those ordinances have to do with whether or not the intersection has a traffic control device or not, what direction that device faces. It has to do with the size of the vehicle. We have issues with blockage of sidewalks, which is an interesting situation in Rollins. We have sidewalks that run and then end and then run again. It's also not illegal to park between the curb and the sidewalk on that frontage right there, but we do have people that are actually parked on the sidewalk. We have people parked in their driveways blocking the sidewalk. We have issues with people parking against the flow of traffic, which is currently not a city ordinance, covered by a city ordinance, but it is covered by state law. The issue there is, in order to do that, people have to cross the flow of traffic into oncoming traffic, so we don't like seeing people do that. And we do have a number of unregistered or derelict vehicles that are actually parked on the street. This obviously also overlaps with beautification as part of the strategic plan for the city. So we should be putting things out soon. I can't tell you how long the education campaign part of this will run, but it's not going to be brief or overly long, and we'll try to hit that middle spot right there so that we can properly educate the public before we move on to the next phases, but we don't want it to drag on either. We want to address the situation. Myra, any thoughts on when we may start putting things out on social media and so forth?
No. I would like to add, we have been actually doing this for a while. We put out in both the water bill and the, early this year, and then in the city view, the full list of the parking ordinances. We have modified that very, very minorly to better explain the intersection rules. But I do feel confident that most people in our community have seen it. We're just going to kind of boost it a little bit more on specific videos. So probably just a couple weeks total.
Thanks, Myra.
Thank you, sir.
So, and then when we move into the warning phase, we want to work with the public. We'll knock on doors, we'll put warnings in and so forth on vehicles. We really would like to get compliance from the community we serve voluntarily before we move it into an enforcement phase. But we do have to do something. There's the beautification part, but there's also a public safety aspect as well that we need to address. Any questions?
Councilmember Weisenberg?
Yeah, I just, can you clarify why you can park on the city right away there with the green belts that's running through that area?
I can't quote the city ordinance. I can get that for you later. I'm just aware that I've been told by my staff that it is acceptable by city ordinance and state law to park on that green space between the curb and the sidewalk. And I can let you know.
It's not an easement, correct? Is that classified as an easement?
That I'm not sure of. Let me get you some more information on that. I'll email it to you, but I'll copy the entire council.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Councilmember
Chief, I received some calls on, I received some calls on traffic at the lights where people will stop and make a right turn. They're not marked. And I was told by a city attorney at one time that the person making the right, that if the person pulls next to somebody to make a right and the person in the center wants to make a right, the person in the center is correct because they're not marked. Those got to be marked, and I brought this up a couple of years ago.
I'm familiar with it just during my tenure here. I think it's been brought up. One intersection that I've heard of is westbound Cedar at 3rd.
That's right.
Yep. So let me work with the city attorney and Cody, and if the markings there are not appropriate, we'll do what we can to fix that.
I also received a call up by going to Walmart on that intersection there where you cross the highway coming from McDonald's. Somebody they said it's not lined up properly and it's kind of confusing. So they wanted to know.
So if you're coming south on Airport, McDonald's would be on your right, and the Sinclair is there, or the Stinkers. Yeah,
Exactly.
and you're going to go straight across towards,
to Walmart.
Sure.
And that intersection there is not, they don't feel it's lined up right.
Okay.
And it's kind of confusing for them sometimes when you
I was
have
just
traffic.
through there the other day, and I think I know what you're talking about.
But I know a lot of it's state, it's regulated by the state because it's a highway, but
Right.
it might be something we can look at.
I know that we do meet with YDOT on a regular basis, and both Cody and Austin are paying close attention to what we're saying, so we'll address that with them if it's their
appreciate that.
jurisdiction. Cody has something to say.
I can comment on that. We did, that is actually a YDOT. They marked that, and they're actually out there. They did the only turn in there just earlier this week. So we have all new arrows and only sign on the street now.
Okay, that's fine.
So that is actually theirs.
I had received a call on that because a lady almost had
Yeah,
an
we brought it
accident
up
there.
in Urban Systems, and they went ahead and did it this summer for us.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd like to stress that specifically the police department, but the city as a whole, wants to get information from the community we serve. And I know that frequently, as your constituents, they will reach out to you. And I know that I think all of you have passed things on to me. We don't want to ever discourage receiving that from the community, that information. So when they reach out to you, please continue to send it to us, or you can refer them to the report of concern, any manner you want, but my phone's on 24/7 and we want to get that info.
Appreciate that.
Okay. I'm going to move right into the department report. We've had a busy month. A number of the things I could talk about were probably in the weeklies, but I'm going to hit a couple highlights right here. The entire department, the sworn officers, attended de-escalation training taught by Officer Tom Gamblin Sr. He had been certified to teach that via training he took in Colorado last year. Sergeant Joel Robertson, our SRO, and one of our lieutenants attended training on preventing targeted school violence that was presented by the United States Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center in Laramie. Joel Robertson and the same lieutenant presented on police outreach programs to a community call to action at the Carbon County Higher Education Center. On April 20th, we had our quarterly department meeting. The county attorney's office presented training on a legal update for us. We have a monthly meeting with the Community Cares Coalition, which is all of the faith-based leaders in the city of Rollins. It's been organized by the pastor from the Episcopal Church. We've been meeting once a month now for a couple months, and I'm really happy to be a part of that group. Getting to know the faith-based leaders is, really good for the police chief. We had candidate testing on April 21st. We had 8 people that were supposed to test. 5 of them failed to appear, and 3 of them failed. We have another testing date this Friday, the 20th. We have 2 candidates confirmed to be arriving. Lieutenant Hooper and I attended the Wyoming Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police Conference in Casper. I also attended the Wyoming Law Enforcement Coordination Committee Conference, which was hosted by the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Wyoming Highway Patrol and Lander 2 weeks ago. We had stop stick training conducted by the Wyoming Highway Patrol. That was with stop sticks that were purchased with impact funds. We used those to end pursuits. We attended critical infrastructure training hosted by the C4, also threat hazard identification risk assessment training hosted by the C4. We've attended several Carbon County Prevention Network meetings. We have been hosting a student from the Rollins High School in a job shadowing program, and that student has been shadowing all of the different parts of the department, and he's been having a good time. Sergeant Robertson, our SRO, assisted a student with a prom invitation. That was a staged traffic stop where the male half was driving and came back and got flowers out of Sergeant Robertson's car, brought them back up, and asked his soon-to-be prom date if she would go with him. I understand she accepted. The administrative assistant, Katrina James, and Sergeant Robertson attended a 5th grade career day and event day for kindergartners at the rec center. Katrina and one of our dispatchers and Sergeant Robertson, the dispatcher was Lucero Romero, attended a workforce job fair at the Jeffrey Center. We have 2 new officers that have been hired. They're going to be starting on May 31st. Their swearing in will be in this room on June 6th. I'll send some invites out to all of you. Officer Thomas Gamblin Jr. has retired from the Rollins Police Department and accepted a job as a police officer in Thermopolis. We have interviewed for a new dispatcher position, and that process is moving forward. I want to talk briefly about 3 speed studies that we've conducted in the last few months. So with the impact funds, we're slated to purchase a signboard trailer that has a radar device attached to it that can conduct speed studies. Currently, we have basically a box that we can attach to a fixed object, and it has a radar device in it. Doesn't take pictures, doesn't capture any identifiers of the vehicles. It's a radar device that will capture information on how many objects pass it, in what direction they're going, at what date, at what time, and the speed. So the first one we conducted was in response to a number of complaints on Inverness Boulevard at Glasgow Boulevard. The speed study was conducted between February 15th and February 21st. Posted speed limit at that stretch of roadway is 25 miles an hour. During the time we conducted the study, there was almost 9,000 cars that passed. 86.17, and I'll send you this information, Councilman Garner, if you want it. 86.17% of the vehicles were at or below the speed limit. 13.83 were above. And the average speed of all of those cars that were in excess of the speed limit was 30 miles an hour. So in excess of 25, but not horrible, and that's an average. The second speed study was on Walnut Street, also in response to a complaint. That study was between February 28th and March 7th. During that time, almost 31,000 vehicles passed by the device. 87.29% of them were at or under the speed limit. That left 12.71% above the speed limit. Of that 12.71%, the average of all of the speeds over the speed limit was 36.1, and that is a 30-mile-an-hour zone. So of all the people that were exceeding the speed limit, if you average their speeds, it came out to be 36. Councilmember Martinez, we felt like we wanted to represent the city equally, so the third study was on the south side. And this was at Washington Street between the tunnel and Bolton Park. Speed limit here is 30 miles an hour. The study was conducted between March 21st and March 28th. We had a little bit of a bigger problem here, although we did have 81,000 cars pass by. It's quite a bit of traffic right there. 80.45% of the vehicles were at or under the speed limit, which meant about 1/5 were exceeding the speed limit. The average speed of those 19.55% was 36.49 miles an hour. So once again, about 6 miles an hour over the speed limit was the average of the vehicles that were speeding.
So before they get to the park?
It's in between the bridge and the park, yeah. And it's doing it in both directions, both north and south. If anybody wants specific details about these studies or actually the reports themselves are very lengthy. I'd be happy to share them. Just let me know. Top 10 list for calls for service. These calls are pulled from our report writing system. So this is not a total of calls we've been dispatched to. This is just a total of calls that we actually write a report for. So year to date, we have written 2,500 reports, 2,514. Last year at this time, 2,104. Number one thing that the Rollins police officers are writing reports for is traffic violations. So they're very short out there. The staffing in Rollins is, I would describe it, a critical number. Yesterday, for example, I had no police officers working in the daytime. I had a lieutenant who's not, his job is not to be a frontline responder, but he is almost every day, and a sergeant. That's all we had. They were both tied up with a call at the hospital for about half of the day. That meant the calls then rolled over to me and the investigative lieutenant. So my point there is, even though we are critically short, the Rollins police officers are still enforcing traffic violations. So far, year to date, 641. Number two call is animal calls. Number three, and let me back up. Traffic violations at this time last year, 409 as compared to 641 right now. Animal calls, 179 last year at this time, 200. Number three is assisting other agencies, 132 year to date. Last year at this time, 137. Parking complaints, 87 so far year to date. Last year at this time, 40. Check the welfare is number five, 85 reports written for that, 61 at this time last year. Checking areas of concern, 70 so far this year. I don't have data for last year in that category. Number seven, suspicious person, 66 as compared to 24 last year. Number eight, property damage accident, 64 compared to 52. Number nine, motorist assist, 58 compared to 57. And number 10 is ambulance calls, which are dispatched by our dispatchers, 57 compared to 50. Any questions?
It's a big increase.
It's a little bit busier. Hard to say why.
That's what I was gonna ask you, why?
Are you talking about all of them, council member, or just the ambulance calls?
I mean, no, all across the board is a big increase, except for one that was equal pretty much, right? Do you have an idea of why?
We have about 400 more reports written this year to date as opposed to last year. Hard to say why. Maybe the officers were, in terms of self-initiated activity, a little more quiet last year because of COVID. Maybe the call volume was less because of COVID. I don't want to say it's just that. Otherwise, it's hard to say. I will note that in the top 10 things that types of calls we've been writing reports for are things that you may not expect. Like you would expect crimes to be in that top 10. Domestic disturbance is actually number 12. 48 calls this year as opposed to 38. Larceny, you would expect to be in the top 10. That's number 13. 42 so far this year as compared to 36. And Part 1 offenses or violent felonies are rare in Wyoming, and they're relatively rare in Rollins as well.
Chief, I wonder, I think another factor might be the staffing too. Last year was a little down compared to this year.
We do have a few more officers on the road this year, and I think you're right. That probably does play a factor, especially when we're talking about the self-initiated activities.
How old is the student that you are having job shadow? What age would you accept?
I have to get back to you on that one as well. I'm not sure if he's a junior, or senior, or a sophomore.
I was
but
just curious.
This is an ongoing program,
Mhm.
and apparently it's a popular one. The staff at the police station, sworn and civilian, enjoy it, and the students, I understand, enjoy it as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Any other discussions for Chief Ward? All right.
Thank you for your time.
Who wants to come next? Don't all rush up here at once. All right, Cody.
Madam Vice Mayor, Council, I'll try to run through this pretty quick. I know we got a long agenda, so I'll start with our streets. We're down with a small streets crew. Our streets foreman is out on medical leave for a little while now, so hopefully we get him back pretty soon. But on our small crew, we're doing actually really good. We're starting our street patches right now, pothole repairs, and those can only be done on nicer days, so we have to watch for the temperatures. And right now, on the off days, we're filling up those by sign repairs. We've been actually cleaning up Harshman and Spruce Street where they put all the walnut dirt. We've been using that to clean up some lots, some alleys, get our snow removal areas prepped and ready to go. Let's see, working on it. So far right now we have about 15 street cuts that we have to do some repairs on, and we're getting about 1 to 2 a week on an average. In the meantime, we're doing maintenance on all the equipment and training almost on a daily basis to keep everybody moving forward. Utilities is continued service calls between sewer, water, locates, meter repairs, curb stop replacements. We've been keeping on top and inspecting the pedestrian tubes, making sure that they're clean. We're currently doing a seasonal sewer line maintenance, going through sections of town, and basically cleaning out the sewers. We're in areas 9, 10, 11, and 12, which is basically daily north. We're also in that process, we're doing some training on our sewer cameras. So all the problem areas that we're having, we're getting our crew and we're teaching them how to do the camera to run down the sewer. And if we find a bad area, we clean it out again and run the camera back down and see how we're doing. We've been having making sure we're keeping up to date on all of any kind of water leaks. Curb stops have been leaking a lot, and our staff has been doing a great job on keeping track of our meters. Any kind of meters that are reading a little bit funny, they've been doing a phenomenal job getting on top of that and making sure all of our meters are running good. We have been checking fire hydrants since wintertime is over. We're making sure that none of them froze and broke, so we're testing all of those right now. We did have one of them that got run over by a car last week, so we had to do a replacement on that, which went okay. Wastewater, both of our plants are really running good right now. We're getting good run time out of our filters with the spring water. All of our storage is up 95% on our tanks, so we've got good storage right now. We're getting in about 1.5 million gallons a day from the springs, and the town is using between 1 and 1.2 million gallons a day, so we're keeping our storage up really good. Project is going really good up there. We're down to about the last 600 feet. I got word today. We did have, they poked a hole in the line yesterday, but our utilities crew ran up there real quick and put a patch on it and got us going again in a short period of time. So I'm going to compliment them. They've been really doing a great job staying on top of all of our water crisis problems right now. So big shout out to all of our crews out there right now on Public Works. And any questions?
Councilmember Weisenberg?
Yeah, the street cut and the sidewalk on Walnut and Third. When is that going to be done?
So that is actually contracted out to 71 at the moment. We're talking with the general contractor that had it done. He was out there the other day. 71 was supposed to get it started a little while ago. I talked to those guys. I got to reach back out to them because they haven't fixed it yet. And they have had plenty enough time and good weather, but that is still on the prison. They have hired that company and them. We have stepped in and said if we need to go in and fix it, we can fix it. And they said, no, we've got it covered. So
do we have a timeline for them? I mean,
I do not at this point.
It's a safety issue to have that sidewalk put up like that.
So I will reach out to them and see what they have to say, and I will send you an email on their timeline. Would that
Okay.
help?
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
All right, who's next?
Council and Vice Mayor. With the landfill, representing the landfill, just want to say thank you guys for our new scraper. And thank you, Sean, and thank you, Lynn, all the hard help that you guys did. We very appreciate it.
How's it running?
Oh, it's a beautiful machine.
A little better.
Oh gosh. In all ways, but every way. But yeah, we very well appreciate your guys' work. We are starting to move construction now, since we can move dirt. We started that today, actually, so we should see some big improvements in our construction. Tires should be almost ready to go. Metal is going to be worked on. Guy came a couple of days this week to pick up metal. So recycling crew's doing awesome. I'm sending out a cardboard flatbed tomorrow, and then I have another one scheduled for next week. And they carry 52 to 54 bales of cardboard every load. We do have a new hauler that we're going to try on the cardboard. They go the other direction instead of that direction, so they promised us more for our time, so we'll see where that goes. With the maintenance crew, they are working on the water fountains here and the rec center. They're being installed. They're supposed to be more proficient in water. So that'd be all good. The wall upstairs, they're almost complete with that, but we're working on it. Justin is our only mechanic. Kenny did retire, and we seen him off, I think it was Friday. But Justin's doing outstanding and good, and all of us keep asking him if he needs help, or we're there 100% if he needs help with oil changes or tires or whatever he needs. We'll be there for him. The clubhouse is looking really nice. They changed all the lights. They went to LEDs. They did a lot of work on the clubhouse. All the refrigerators work, all the cooling systems, everything that has problems before. They're doing really excellent. So that's it.
Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Madam Vice Mayor and Council, update with the Recreation Department, and in general, I guess, the Fall City View newsletter and activity guide has been out. We got a few comments at our Arbor Day celebration that they found out about that event by reading the newsletter, so we're getting some comments back that people are reading it. There's some great city-wide information in it, as well as there's a recreation activity guide. This is the second time. It's really a great planning resource for families and residents to figure out what's going on recreation opportunity-wise for the next 3 to 4 months. So we're excited to have that. This Saturday, May 21st, Blaine will mention an event that they're working on this Saturday as well. But we're also doing an indoor garage sale at the Rollins Family Recreation Center from 7 a.m. to 12 noon. So stop by and check it out. And we're working on planning those programs, activities, and events for the coming fall newsletter and recreation activity guide at a staff level. The golf course is starting to green up pretty well. We're going to apply some fertilizer in the next week or so that'll really kind of help it out. It's basically nitrogen. It'll green it up and help it along. We are seeing increased play with the decent weather we're having and the improvements to the golf course, so it's nice to see more golfers getting out there and playing. Update on the skate park. I was hoping to receive input from the skate park company that we're ordering the ramps from. I haven't heard back from them. They've had some turnover in their business. I was hoping to have a better idea to tell you when that we'll be skating this summer. So it'll be by the end of the summer, and I hope that it'll be sooner, and I think that it'll be sooner, but I don't want to get anybody's hopes up too much. So, but it's on its way. We've been firing up the irrigation for our parks. We've had a few setbacks at a few facilities with our RPZ, our backflow preventers. We had to order some parts on one. Unfortunately, one of them is at the VFW ball field, so if you hear from players and parents and coaches, we tried to fire up the irrigation mainly to operate the restrooms, but we're having some technical issues that we've rushed the order. We're trying to get those parts in so we can make those changes and get those restrooms fired up. Parks, also, Arbor Day celebration we had a couple weeks ago. We totally sold out. And we brought in over $3,000 in sales. I'd really like to commend Tyrell Perry, our park superintendent, and his staff for doing a fantastic job at that event. It was really well attended and well thought out and well planned, so they did a great job. Shooting range advisory board, I was out of town. I did not attend the last meeting, but the outdoor shooting range did open May 1st, so we're excited about that. Right now, through a Friends of the NRA grant we received, we contracted with somebody to replace all the countertops in the shooting range, and then we are in the bid process to replace the shooting range barriers as well as the flooring inside the shooting range. So we're excited to get all that work done this summer while the indoor range is closed. Golf course advisory board. We met last night, and we worked on prioritizing our goals. The golf board and staff have come up with a list of goals based on 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year, and it's just a way of connecting our staff with the board on projects that need to happen. And it's a good way to educate the advisory board on perhaps reasons why some projects aren't happening now, some are put on hold, and it could be funding, it could be staffing, it could be a number of reasons, it could be just prioritizing. So we're working together to do that, and I hope to share that with council once we get it a little bit better. We're kind of tweaking the way that the format, and so once we're happy with it, I'll share that with city council. We also discussed the status of the golf cart batteries. It's been a fun ride for the since I began work here, actually. They are improving. I feel a lot better this morning spending some time out there looking at the carts. I'm having our mechanic in the next week. He's going to pull carts daily. I think we can do 4 a day. We're going to drain the batteries and recharge them again. That's going to help them along because it takes a little bit of time to wake up. And we didn't really get a lot of play in the last month or so because of weather and other reasons. So the best thing for a golf cart right now is to have somebody get out there and play 18 holes and drop it down to 10% and then go charge it again, because the next time it'll hold charge better. So we're working on that. We also talked about the Golf Advisory Board Scramble Tournament on July 9th. They're going to do a Scramble Tournament in hopes to start doing some fundraising so that the Golf Advisory Board can sponsor some projects out at the golf course. So we're looking forward to that. We also talked about painting the clubhouse with this year's capital. We felt not to move that forward, but it really needs to be done. It's been needed for 6 years, so we're just going to take it on, and we're going to have a few volunteer work days. We're going to have our parks crew help out and lend a hand, and we're going to do, basically we talked last night, I think the best way to do it is just to do one section at a time, and we're going to do the south of the building. We're afraid that if we go in there and do all the prep work for the entire facility and then we run out of time or volunteers to paint, then all that building is exposed. So we're going to do one section at a time. We're going to prep, sand it down, get it ready, prime it, paint it. Then we're going to go to the next section and do that. So we're hoping to get it all done this year with volunteers. We also talked about selling advertisements at each hole, and also not this year but next year we'd like to sell advertisements on the driving range. So we've been doing some research on when the golf course opened. Thank you, Patty Hayes, for reaching out and looking into that. We wanted to see what kind of contract was in place. What were the terms when we sold basically a sponsorship for each of the 18 holes to those individuals. A lot of those businesses actually aren't in business now. So in talking about it, what we came up with is we would take, and this is kind of initial, but I just wanted to share this because it's kind of exciting. We would take all the sponsors from each of the 18 holes, and we would make like a nice, not a mural, but something nice right outside the clubhouse that would have all of those, basically the sponsors as the golf course opened outside the clubhouse. And then we would go out to the community. We would offer those who are still in business the first shot to sponsor a hole again, and reach out to other businesses and organizations to see if they'd like to sponsor a hole. So I'm excited to work on that. It'll be some revenue stream for the golf course, but it'll also be a great advertising opportunity for local businesses. Dog park update, we do have an item later on the council agenda to discuss removing a parking sign that will basically help us understand which direction we can go from there. We're pulling a plat for the Key Club Park, hopefully, or the cemetery. We need to identify our property line along Colorado Street so we can be sure what setback we need to put the fencing there, and then also identify what to do with our irrigation heads, because we don't want to have a fence really 3 feet from the edge of the turf because of increased maintenance. So that should happen in the next week or so, and we're in the process of getting quotes in for the fencing for that project. And just real quick, I want to thank Sean and Myra. They joined us at Rotary Club today and had a great talk about water. Had a great overview and discussion and some questions, and I think everybody walked away feeling really good about things. So thank you for that. Pat, I want to add on to what you said about the golf course clubhouse. The facilities crew did a fantastic job on the inside of that building. And you know, it looks fantastic. It's really very clean, very good, new lighting. They did a great job. And the last thing is we're working on a citywide surplus auction. So all departments are kind of figuring out the process and going through our old equipment that is just sitting around. It's not doing us any good. It's a safety concern. It doesn't belong in our shops. So we're all kind of working together on that. Thank you, Wendy, for your update today on the process. So you'll probably in the next month or so, we'll be bringing items to ask City Council to declare surplus. I believe it's any item over $500. All others, City Manager can sign off on. So we're working with a local auctioneer, Gary Woodward, to put on the auction. He does a great job locally. He has one next Friday for the county, I believe. No, this Friday, I believe, for the county, so at the fairgrounds. So anyways, we're looking forward to that as well, and be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, who's next? Stay.
Honorable Vice Mayor, City Council, I'd like to bring up an idea that I'm working through right now. We have a half CFS right to the cemetery water. We've got a well there already that needs to be looked at, in my opinion. I think we're trying to look at the big picture, how we can best meet the city's needs across the board. And it's an asset that's been identified that we have an adjudicated water right for. I think it's worth looking at. So with that, I'm starting to consider getting bids to go and test the water quality for that, and just try to capture how much it would cost to get those to get that water sampled for water quality, for watering, for irrigation. And there's a substantial amount of water there potentially. The current infrastructure that's there, the line's been cut, that equipment's been sitting in the well, and leaving that equipment inside that well for so long, since prior to the 1980s, could be problematic. You could lose, it could cause damage to the well just leaving that in there without servicing it and taking it out. So in order to test it, what we're looking at is a removal process of the existing equipment that's in the well, and then to use a temporary pump to discharge and do a test. So
What kind of equipment's in there?
a well pump, a well motor, and then the piping. And so a lot of these kinds of wells, you'll see Oh, yeah. No, you make a good point. But if you go in that vault, you might get bit by a black widow. But in that well, there's a possibility of there being like a shoe that this sets on. It's kind of like a metal shoe in the actual tubing that's there. So that could fail. And so it's just really important that we get that out and get that tested for water quality, in my opinion, as another option. So this would be in addition to the cemetery water line that we're looking at, that we're working on right now with our consultants with WWC. But just looking at the big picture, I'd like to turn this town into the Garden of Eden, if I can. And this is one part of that.
How much do you expect the cost to be for that water to be tested?
Considering the size of the equipment, I would say anywhere between, well, probably less than $20,000. That's really high. That's a high number. I'd just like to give you a high number rather than a low number.
Councilwoman Smith?
Could I ask if we have the credentials in the water treatment department to be able to take those samples and take them to the lab in Casper rather than doing, or is that sufficient enough to test the waters?
We can absolutely have the testing done ourselves, but to get the water out of the well is the difficult part.
That's the issue then. It's not testing, it's just how to get it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good clarification.
Member Weisenberg?
So, a couple questions. What size of pump are you aware of, and what kind of pump is it?
I believe it's 240 volt, probably 3-phase. That's the best I can tell. I didn't want to climb in there because it's confined space. So, just looking at it from the vault manhole cover, that's what I could see.
And wires are ran to surface, correct, already?
Yeah, and they've been cut.
So we're afraid to splice those and just try and pump off the current tubing that's in there now?
We could try to do that. There's no transformer, so you can tell just looking at the existing electrical overhead that it's been replaced. The overhead was replaced, and then they took the transformer and it went away. There's still an old meter there too, but we could try running the existing equipment, but there's a possibility of like some kind of catastrophic failure. It's not been run for 42 years or more, so I don't recommend that.
What kind of failure are you worried about?
It falling into the well and damaging it irreparably.
Awesome. I think it's a great thing to explore.
So, okay, just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, Austin.
All right.
Honorable Council, Vice Mayor, I'm here on behalf of Nate, who is at the Greater the Downtown Development Authority, and where is he at?
Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, that's correct. So I'm here representing him, and what he wanted me to convey to you this evening was that he's just been working on developing a quality experience for businesses coming into town, looking at how we can incubate them and bring them into our community, show them the quality of life, get processes in place, talk about the fact that we have really good tax benefits and business-friendly ordinances. And so that's his overall picture of what he's been looking at. And the next time we have a council meeting, I'm sure he'll go into specifics with you. But that's what he wanted me to let you all know that he's been working on. As for me, I've been working on mainly trying to resource funding sources and grants and loans for the water project. I met with Councilwoman Smith the other day, and we helped hammer out some stuff that I'm working on. But right now I have an energy efficiency grant. I'm working on additions for the skate park to make it ADA accessible, which is killing two birds with one stone, because then the sidewalks will be taken care of. The drinking water grant through SLIB, and the transcontinental trails. We did have DOT come out and talk to us, and they did a site visit, which was really nice, and gave us some recommendations. Obviously, financially, we can't pursue that right now, but they did give us some ideas for the future. So, I wanted to remind the council that our SLIB MRG grant will be heard June 2nd. We do have a convoy of people going, so anybody that's interested in going and representing the city would be much appreciated. I think the more people we have there, the better. And then I also got news that CDBG, our CD Community Development Block Grant funds, which were supposed to be heard last January, are going to be heard on May 26th. You can Zoom into the meeting, so I'll send that information on to all of you. But that's exciting news that we're finally going to probably get some answers on that, and that does have a lot of water money involved in it. So, and then I plan on attending Funding Day at the WAM conference in Laramie, so that I'll get some more ideas. As far as the big water money that's coming out, I've tried to stay in touch with people at WAM, Justin and Bob, and it seems like they're working on the rules. A new rule came out today that I need to research more, but it seems like the funding is going to be announced July 1st. So we wouldn't hear very much back on the applications until maybe November or December, given kind of a 6-month period. But that's some big money to go after once it does get announced, and it's just a process right now. So, do y'all have any questions for me?
No, you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I don't have the time for that. We'll find out.
So I just wanted to take a minute tonight, Council, Vice Mayor Wells and Council. I received I apologize for my voice, I have allergies this time of year and it gets the best of me, so I do apologize for that. We received a letter from a community member, and they asked to have this shared to council, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to share this letter. It was actually addressed to Chief Ward. It says, and it's from actually the Bank of Commerce, and it says, on behalf of the staff and board of directors of the Bank of Commerce, I would like to send a special thank you to you and your team, and especially 2 of your officers, Lieutenant Jared Frakes and Sergeant Chris Craig. These 2, after working late shifts, took time to come to our bank and to give a very informative presentation on active aggressor to our staff. The passion and pride that they did in their job to help ensure the safety of my team was glaringly apparent. I have known both of these individuals for many years, and I have the utmost respect for each of them. They are excellent stewards of our community and represent the badge of the Rollins Police Department well. My team came away from this presentation with a much better understanding of the threats that could be present, other than the traditional robbery threats, and how to best handle the situations that may arise. We certainly will be more prepared if a bad actor ever comes into the bank and becomes a threat. Please share our gratitude and this letter with those within your department, the city manager, and the city council. I am sure the great things like this are done regularly in our community and do not get the attention that they deserve. Once again, thank you and your team for their efforts and for caring about the people that you serve. Sincerely, Copper W. France, President and CEO of Bank of Commerce. And I just wanted to share with that. Sometimes we don't have the opportunity to share that recognition, but I do appreciate the officers, Officer Frank and our Lieutenant Frank and Sergeant Craig, for all that they do in representing our team and all of the police department and the employees in the city. In addition to that, I just wanted to take a second, and I might be taking Sean's thunder, but I want to introduce our new employee, our new finance director. So I'm going to have him stand up. He's in the back. This is Tom Sarve, and he is our new finance director, and we're glad to have him here.
Welcome to Rollins.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Let's go, Blaine.
It's exciting to see me walk in here, isn't it? Madam Vice Mayor and members of the council, I promise to make this brief, as always. Our call volume for this year has been 378 calls, up from 340 last year, so a little bit more. Very, very proud to announce that 1,730 hours of training. So we are going to be very, very close at breaking the 4,000 hour, which our goal last year was 3,000 hours. So very proud of this team for coming together and doing that much training. 185 buildings have been inspected, and our wonderful building official who's here with us tonight, thinking about asking her to come every Tuesday that we have a meeting. Okay. There you go. Has done 360 inspections, so that's awesome. Just a couple of things that I wanted to bring up was, yes, we have a 5K fun run, open house, static display, bounce house for the kids. Our boys will be, and girls will be cooking a pancake and sausage breakfast. It's at Station 2, starts at 9 o'clock. So we'd like to have everybody, Councilman Garner, my vote's for you, man, to take the gold in the 5K run this year. So we'd like to have as many people come on down. We had a good time last year, and this year we're actually cooking. So
Date, what's this?
this Saturday, I'm sorry.
This Saturday.
Yep. I do apologize. I actually had that written down and went right past it. So, and one of the thanks that I want to send out is to Captain Hans Pedersen. He instructed a Red Card Wildland Firefighting Certification course Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's one of the courses that I have never had officially in my career. So, sitting with all these brand new rookie firefighters and the kid in there. So, but five of our firefighters were certified. And we also had, altogether, I think there were 13. So he did a great job, and we had members from BLM come in and help instruct too, and it was a wonderful class. Learned a lot. So anyway, that is my report. Questions? See you Saturday.
Thank you.
We're not.
Did we get everybody? All right. Let's move down to city manager's report. Sean?
Okay, thank you. Just a few updates for tonight. Just a reminder that we have the Water Town Hall this Thursday at the Jeffrey Center at 6 o'clock. We welcome any of the council to come and attend with us on that. Myra has been working on our website, updating it with water irrigation restrictions that the community's been following. So if there's anyone that has questions, the answers are out there. I was able to get a hold of Rod Taylor with Sinclair and Hollyfield, and they have some new dates where they'd like to meet with us. And I'll go ahead and send that out in an email, and then just let me know which dates would work for you. And if I remember, Councilwoman Smith wanted to attend, correct?
If I'm here, yes.
Okay, and then was it, I can't remember, there was someone else that wanted to attend too.
I think the mayor had wanted to, but I'm not sure right now if he can.
Is this this water project with Sinclair? Yeah, I was on that. I
You were on that one too?
A date on it.
Okay, so I'll send that out and just let me know, whoever would like to attend there. Another change, as you're all aware, that I wanted to just give a try this upcoming month is to do a city manager's report. It's kind of essentially like what we just heard from the department heads. It's going to have some really good updates for the community members. And the format is kind of, they can see accomplishments from the prior month and then upcoming projects, so it should give them an idea, just like we heard today. If they were sitting here, they would get a good idea of what's going on in the city. So if there's any feedback on that, please let me know. And then there's also, I think all of you have this little report on communication and things that I'm kind of interested to hear from each of you on that, if you could fill that out for me. And then lastly, I just wanted to also say, so Stephanie did steal my thunder. It's been so amazing to have Tom here. I told him on Monday about, I think, 5 times how excited I was to have him. But yeah, he's just super qualified. I can tell he just fits right in here with our group. He's going to bring a lot to the table. I'm very, very excited. If you have any speeches, you're welcome to. You can, if you want to say anything, you're welcome to. Or
no, thank you.
So that's all I have.
Great. Moving down to city attorney report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Wells, council members. I have been going through a lot of the contracts that have been coming up recently for the bids that we've been doing. So I've been kept pretty busy reviewing those contracts, making sure that the resolutions get passed up to the council. I am doing a comprehensive ordinance review. As I am finding them, I am beginning to edit those, and I will be, in the next few months, bringing those in front of the council for your consideration and review. I just want you to know that just because I'm not bringing you things doesn't mean I'm not working on them. So please continue to send me your requests. I'm more than happy to do those, and I will get you some ordinances here just as soon as I can.
Thank you. All right, direction from the city council to city manager and city attorney. Does anybody have anything? Councilwoman Smith?
I had kind of a crazy idea, but I talked to Austin about it just very briefly, but we've had a lot of feedback from the community on this 1 hour a week per zone restrictions because people want to do more. But the thought occurred to me that we do have a pumping station out at the river, and industrial folks do come out and buy water basically from that source. And I was thinking that at some point, if people really needed to water their bushes and trees and things from raw water, maybe they could buy some of that. We could figure out something that was equitable, but I know we don't have meters there, so it's kind of like on an honor system, but that might be something that we might look into. And I think Austin had another idea that was absolutely fantastic. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there to consider, to maybe relieve some of the pressure on some of the inability of folks to water their lawns and trees and things like that.
We'll have some conversations.
Okay, thank you.
Myra, you had a comment?
I know this is a confusing topic, so mostly for clarity to the public. Right now, the public is allowed to water their trees, bushes, and gardens as needed, which can be every day. It's just turf that's limited to the 1 day per week.
And I was saying raw water for whatever they needed to do there.
Yeah, I totally understand. I just know it's a confusing topic, so.
All right, Councilmember Martinez?
I do have some. I've received some calls and I've had some people talk to me about an issue that's been coming out in the community about micromanaging. And I just want to tell this council that micromanaging is no different than conflict of interest. If there's a person on this council that's micromanaging, feel free to bring up their name and tell them that they're micromanaging, and so that they can respond. But when I get calls and saying who's doing the micromanaging, I don't know. I don't micromanage. I understand how the manager form of government works. I understand that the employees are employees of the city manager, and that if I have any problems with any department, I definitely wouldn't go to them and ask them for and tell them what I want. I would come to the manager and have you answer that question. But it bothered me that you get all this propaganda going around that unless I missed something in a meeting, I didn't see any micromanaging. And so I just wanted to let you know how I felt about that. It bothered me that people make these accusations, and if they're micromanaging, they're doing it outside the council chamber and doing it out on the street. But I have no knowledge of that, and I just wanted to bring that up.
I actually have something prepared to say about that topic, so I will go ahead and dive right into that. I was saving it for later in the agenda, but at the previous meeting, I left feeling very discouraged. I reached out to express my concerns privately to several council members. A certain council member urged me to bring these concerns up publicly, so that's what I'm going to do today. As a public servant for over 12 years, working with both the county and the city budget processes, I have never witnessed the behavior of council as I did in the last meeting. Our city staff are on the verge of leaving. They don't feel valued, heard, or even respected by our council. In previous years where cuts were made, we always give the staff flexibility and the autonomy to decide where the cuts in their own budget should be made. Who else is going to better know what the staff need more than the city that does the actual work? In my mind, there is absolutely no reason to argue with them about which handguns, tasers, and or other equipment they need. Last council meeting, a few of my very fellow council members nitpicked almost every single line item. To me, this is a complete overreach and only leaves staff to feel devalued in their work. I personally feel we also need to adopt a percentage of the salary study. We have not even considered that as far as this has gone, but $1,000 bonuses to me would be a slap in the face of their worth. I have to say, I am truly disheartened. I do not know how we got to this place, but it leaves me feeling sick for our staff and the residents of Rollins. As per my final thoughts on this, the City of Rollins staff, please know that not all of the council feels this way. We support you and hope you know that you are a true asset to my favorite city. And so, as for City of Rollins residents, please know that Rollins is and continues to be an amazing place. Our community is what makes us shine, and with the right people in the right places, we can make Rollins thrive. I truly love this city and will not stand by future intolerances. So I just wanted to make my thoughts known on that issue, and I'd be glad to have anybody else comment. Ms. Smith?
Yes, I'd like to respond, please. Let me remind people that we started 3 weeks ago. We were asked to cut $1.4 million out of the budget. At that point in time, we finally got the budget put into actual funds and into the process where we could look at it. We found basically $900 and some thousand error that caused us to not have to cut $1.4 million, nor did we have to lay off 11 people to accommodate that $1.4. But at that time, I took an interest in trying to find $250,000 over and above that $560,000 subsidy that basically we would have to cover. And so I did take a far more interest in it than I normally would. I don't feel I was nitpicking. I think it's my fiduciary responsibility to present a balanced budget. There were some folks here that that I asked some things where I missed one meeting where a couple of departments presented and I didn't hear what was in that. I was merely looking for $250,000 to save jobs and provide a 3% COLA raise, which is still in this current budget. We didn't take it out. It was just merely discussion, and we didn't tell them to take it out. So in my heart, that's what I was doing. I value every single person that works for us. I value everybody's time, but it's my responsibility as a council person to make this budget work. We overspent last year $4.3 million above the revenue in general fund. Where you get into trouble is in the general fund is where you have to cut positions because you don't have enough revenue coming in, and that's where we're at. And I'll speak more to that under the budget, but I did need to respond. It's not because I want to be nitpicky. It's because out of my heart, I wanted to save positions and give a COLA raise.
Councilmember Weisenberg?
Yeah, I'll speak on that also. I want to second what Councilwoman Smith is saying here. Also, in your absence of a meeting and missing some of that stuff, we left out of here at 1.2 million. We come back into another meeting the next week and we're at 900,000. That was one of the reasons I myself was asking the questions of where to make the cuts or where we could make the cuts. You cannot operate a city of our size on a $900,000 cash flow. So we have a responsibility under an oath of office to take, and I myself will not stand by and under that oath be prosecuted because we go into a negative fund on that situation because of overspending. That's why I do my due diligence, and I was very careful on where I was looking at funds. I did not feel that I was nitpicking either, and that's what I feel. There's nothing against any department heads, nothing against employees. There are certain things, I did not want to take away a COLA raise if we had to. There's a mere fact that some people in a COLA raise won't receive $1,000 over a course of a year. So let's be honest and to the staff, right? Some people might end up with $3,750 on a COLA raise. So how fair is that to our staff for the low-end person to not even receive the amount of money that we were talking about giving them individuals at that point in time? So that's where I was at. I agree. I would love to give the COLA raise if we can afford it. And if the budget isn't balanced, we cannot pass an unbalanced budget. That's where we're going to get in trouble.
Thank you. Councilmember Gardner?
I understand where Vice Mayor Wells is coming from. I think our approach last week, where we nitpicked the items, should have been done rather than say, well, why do you need this item? Why do you need this for the police truck? Why do you need this? We should have said, this is the budget number we need to hit, and then ask them to hit that, and then they go out and they pick what they need to get to. And then that removes us, because it's not our job to tell them what they need to buy and what's best for their department. But our job is to say, this is the hard line. We need 1.5 million in the budget. What can you do to get to this? And I think our overreach, it was picking at every single department and maybe more on some departments and not others. So, and maybe that's the best way to do this moving forward, rather than questioning their ability, their professional opinion.
Usually this is worked out in a workshop about a month or so before we get to public hearings, and that's enough I'm going to say about it.
Councilmember Martinez?
And I agree with what you're saying. I honestly believe it's not my job to tell them what kind of pipe to buy or how to get it in the ditch. My job is to appropriate the funds to pay for it. And if we don't have the funds, then it's our job to do the cutting. That's the way it works. And so I for one would felt that the conversation that took place in regard to micromanaging didn't have to do with all of us, because my feeling is still the same. If I think that I need to cut something out of the budget to get some revenue, I would do it.
Anybody else?
I have something else to say, not on this topic though. Okay. So, Sean, it's been brought up multiple times through encounters through lots of people in the public. I know and I understand with the water situation we're having, we have an hour allotted time per zone. So people in the community are asking, and I'm just saying people as in general, I've been approached by a lot and calls, why we cannot water 15 minutes a zone 3 times a week and reduce that hour. So, I mean, if you could look into that, and maybe I understand it's supposed to make your lawn drought resistant, everything else, I get that, but at an hour per zone, you're gonna have water running down the curb. And I wanna reduce that if possible. So if you could maybe look into that and get some feelers out about that, I think it's necessary. So maybe during the town hall meeting, maybe you can approach that question, because right now I hope that they show up, that they've said they are going to show up, but I mean a lot of people in the community are asking this. So,
Councilmember Garner.
To piggyback off that, my understanding on the hour watering was you're allowed up to an hour, but there's some guideline. You want to get so many inches of water within that time frame, and that's what you want to hit, rather than watering the full hour. So I don't.
I personally have been confused by it too.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know how to measure,
Right.
you know, like an
Yeah,
inch of water.
and I understand that,
Yeah,
and that's
I
why
feel the
I think
same,
that's,
Chris.
I think that's why members of the public are coming in droves and saying,
So I've had this.
I can water 15 minutes a zone and have a green lawn. I water 1 hour per zone, I'm flooding the street with, and the curb with water, and it's not necessary. And so, you know, I think it's, to do the due diligence of the community, we really need to look into that.
I agree on that topic, yes.
Myron, do you want to say anything on that one? You've answered that, I don't know how many times now.
Yes, it does sound like the council members are aware of our general reasoning for that, but I will repeat it for the public. Since we do not have the water available, we did studies, and on different kinds of sprinklers, the 1 hour of watering is about 1 inch of water. And this, if people are able to, splitting it between the day, like 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night, is totally encouraged. That way it has a little bit of time to soak in. But since we do not have the water, 1 inch of water is not enough for the average lawn here in town. Since we don't have it now and we may not have it later, it's better to get the lawns more used to being drought tolerant. The other two benefits on the water side is that we can recharge the tanks better. We can make sure that they're not fluctuating so much. There was a lot of up and down when it's 3 times a week. It's harder to track overall. And we're also be able to monitor the usage more closely for if something goes wrong. You know, if everybody's watering all the time, it's harder to tell if there's a leak or something. I don't know if either of you want to add anything to that from Public Works or Engineering.
You're spot on that. It's just better, it helps us watch the water levels a lot better. But we do encourage that, you know, you water at night and in the morning, kind of split it up instead of just all at once. It was just kind of, you get an hour to water on your day. How you split it up is how you split it up.
And perhaps on a less like intellectual way, we do have significantly less water for irrigation than last year. So this year, we only have about 500,000 gallons of water in excess per day for irrigation. And if we were using water like we did last year on 3 days a week, we would run out of water this summer. So to some extent, we need to water significantly less, and one way to do that is to go from 3 to 1. The 1 hour per zone is actually just a recommendation. And I know that doesn't exactly answer all the questions, but that is what we can provide.
Is there a possibility that that's going to change this summer? Like that we would be able to move up to 2 days a week? Because I know that a lot of people are really stressed about the 1 day a week.
I would say that there is a possibility, although I definitely don't want to send the message, you know, that we're promising or,
Yeah.
you know, because we are the pipeline that we've been replacing over the winter is now I think around 90% complete. And so when that does complete and we get that online, we'll see what our water flows are, and we'll reassess at that point.
Do we know the water flows out of spring boxes at this point in time?
1.5 is.
No, I mean out of each individual spring box? We don't have a way to measure that?
Not at this time.
Any other questions? Anything else? Okay. Moving on to unfinished business. I'd like to untable, or, sorry, I would not. To untable the ordinance, first reading of proposed changes to Rollins Municipal Code, Section 1512.010, permits requiring flat work 5x5 or less. Do I have a motion? Oh, sorry. Councilmember Garner?
I move to approve of untabling first reading and waive reading of ordinance amending Rollins Municipal Code, Section 15.12.010, permits requiring flat work 5 foot by 5 foot or less from City Council regular meeting of July 20th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Weisenberg, second. So the motion has been moved and seconded to untable ordinance, first reading of proposed changes to Rollins Municipal Code, Section 1512.010. Any discussion? right. Can we pull up online voting, please?
Online voting is open.
Thank you.
Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving down to ordinance, first reading and waive reading of ordinance repealing in its entirety, ordinance number 12/2020, and amending Rollins Municipal Code, section 1512.010 and 1512.020 of title 15.12. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Garner?
I move to approve first reading and waive reading of ordinance repealing in its entirety ordinance number 12-2020 and amending Rollins Municipal Code, section 15.12.010 and 15.12.020 of title 15.12.
I'll second that.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve first reading and waive reading of ordinance repealing in its entire ordinance number 12/2020 and amending Rollins Municipal Code, section 1512.010 and 1512.020 of title 1512. And it says Lou. Is Pat,
That's probably.
Pat, are you talking on this subject?
Ariel.
Oh, Ariel. Sorry, Ariel. Come on up.
Do you have any questions on this? But essentially, we did change our ordinance back in 2020 to require permits for all flat work within the city limits. So that included driveways, just patios, whatever. And we are recommending to go back to essentially what our ordinance did have and require permits for flat work only if it was on a city right-of-way, such as a sidewalk, curb gutter, all that.
Great. Any questions? Councilmember Martinez? Yes.
That's only if it's on the city right-of-way, correct?
Correct.
So if they were doing their driveway in their property, they wouldn't need to get a permit?
Nope. If there was an apron or an approach for the curb and gutter, we would require that because we would want it to not have a huge transition, and we would do an inspection on the forms.
When I brought this up, the reason I brought this up was the fact that my neighbor was doing flat work on a deteriorated driveway, and that's all he was doing. He wasn't getting to on the sidewalk or on the curb, and they told me he had to get a permit.
Right.
So he came over to my house to talk to me, and so that's why we brought this up, and I support what you did, what you're saying.
Okay.
Councilmember Weisenberg?
Yeah, I mean, there's some provisions in there too, right? An elevation of 30 inches. I mean, pretty much we're following the IBC on this. Is that how that is?
That is correct. We're gonna
So
adopt the international codes and everything. So everything that's outlined in that is what we'll follow on our standards. Just like if we have, say, a retaining wall over the 4 feet, then we still require a permit for that and all that good stuff. And it would need to be engineered, but this is strictly taking that flat work.
I understood that.
And I appreciate the work on this. I think we're going in the way of being less restrictive on this. So I agree, and we're going to follow international building codes on this. I think it's a good move. Thank you.
Good job.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions for me? Nope. Alrighty.
So,
thank you.
When will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open.
We've been back and forth on flat work for a while.
Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving on down to second reading and waive the reading of the fiscal year 2022-2023 municipal budget. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Martinez?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve on second reading and waive the reading of the fiscal year 2022-2023 municipal budget for the purpose of discussion.
Do I have a second?
For purpose of discussion, I'll second.
Thank you, Linda. The motion has been made and seconded for purposes of discussion. Jean?
If I can lead off on this one, that would be great. Just by way of update from the last meeting, I got sick last week, so I didn't have the opportunity to input the changes that were suggested into the FY23 budget. But I think if we can do our very best today to kind of finalize the changes that we all would like, then I can have it all ready for next time for our final reading. So the first thing that was done, I did talk to Dan Izzo about this, is to not pay off the landfill or sewer debts from the general fund. So he's done that part. And then I did mention to him to check for the inconsistencies in the dangerous building funds. So he said he would fix that for us. I sent off a software list to the council. Hopefully that's what y'all were requesting and needed. There was a suggestion of changing the economic development travel training to 3,000, and I guess I needed, if I could get direction from the council on that one, and then just let me know what you'd like me to do there.
Sean, can you tell us where we're at with, you might need to help me with the verbiage. With the balance? Are we short?
Are we deficit? In
Yes.
the general fund? Yeah, we are.
How much is that number?
Let me see.
794,000.
How much?
Yeah, $794,000. That does include the 3% COLA as well, because I think before it was a little bit lower until we put that in there. So would the council like to change that amount from it? I was just pulling it up. It's from 5,000 to the 3,000.
Emails on my phone.
And that's for training and travel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Smith?
City Manager Sean, quite frankly, there wasn't enough of the reductions in any of those line items to make a difference. And quite frankly, I don't think we need to even worry about it at this point. But what I do have concerns about, and I would like to ask you, did Dan come up with the remaining general fund balance after capital and subsidy, how much cash we would have over and above that $963,276? The subsidy is $794,138. That's basically all the money above what we have for general fund revenue coming in. So what I don't have tonight is when we didn't pay off the loans, how much that increased that $963,000 left over for cash. We can't run a city on $963,000 when we have $5.8 million in projects that we have to do. So that's where I'm coming from. If I knew, was that $2 million coming out of that we didn't pay off? I think it was somewhere, we had $5 million in debt, but it was only $2 million.
Yeah, because the landfill was $1 million, and I think between the 3 sewer debts, it was about $1 million too.
So, and would that be added to that $963,000, or does that include it?
I think that would be added to it.
So we would have $963,000 plus about $2 million, so we'd have 2.9 in cash.
That's my best understanding, yeah.
Okay, then we need to go back to that $794,000. I guess my recommendation to this council is we tell the city manager to go back to the board, figure out how to reduce that $794,000 either by ARPA funds or whatever we need to do, plus whatever cuts you need to make and come back on the third reading with a balanced budget.
I like that idea.
I do too.
Then you guys put in the budget what you guys have priority, and then if it's balanced.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Do you need a motion or amendment?
No, I don't think so. So just going down here a little bit, we'll go ahead and get these items ready to go. And it sounds, what I'm hearing is we don't need to necessarily go line by line on some of the items that we discussed before, but the COLA, I think we should discuss. I'd like to hear from the council on the COLA.
Councilmember Garner.
Earlier, you spoke about the salary study, and I don't know if it's possible. Would it be possible to implement part of the salary study plus part of the COLA, maybe a percentage each way, to hit the departments with the salary study that are very low and need to get moved up to a standard, and then do the COLA at a lower percent maybe, and then try to slowly implement that salary study so that we get to a more normal pay across the board.
Councilmember Weisenberg.
I honestly think at this point in time, the salary study to me is out of the question. I don't, due to the fact of the lack of funds that we have now, we're asking for a $750,000 cut to be made into the budget, and we're still trying to figure out how to give a COLA at this point in time. That's where I feel that a $1,000 bonus would help some. It's going to reduce that by, I can't remember, it's somewhere in 30,000 or 50,000, I think is what that amounts to, is it, if I'm correct?
Well,
right?
it's 200-some thousand versus 105,000.
So, yeah, so 100,000 right there. If we don't do a COLA and we do just $1,000 across the board to employees. So that would be my recommendation at this point in time. Hopefully revenues come up in the future and next year, and we can implement a COLA for the staff that and everything. They do deserve it. I'm just trying to look after the fiscal and financial responsibility of us, at this point in time to make that happen.
Councilwoman Smith.
Yeah, I wanted to address the $1,000. I did some figuring. It isn't a slap in the face. It's the last ditch effort if we can't find other funding to balance, at least give somebody something. But you also, rather than just a bonus, the $1,000 bonus, you could look at $1,000 per each person across the board. It would raise everybody up. It'd be $105,000 on the bottom line. It's not the 3%, but it is a permanent, it would be a permanent solution. Am I making myself, okay. It's called, I can't remember what exactly it's called right now, but rather in lieu of a bonus, it would be a permanent $1,000 across the board raise for everybody in the city that works here. The other thing, if you don't want to do that, I don't know what you're going to do, but it's a difference of $105,000 versus $200-some thousand dollars and 3% COLA raises. It's in here right now. I'm not asking that it be taken out. 3% really does, it stays with your employees and they get it every year afterwards. $1,000 bonus doesn't do that, but maybe if we had more in the fall, we can give more than that, but I don't know. But at this point in time, I want to be able to do something, but we still have $794,000 in the hole here.
Thank you. Councilmember Rogers.
I have a question. I hope it doesn't sound bad, but when we give a COLA raise, that includes council's employees. Is that correct? Is that? Yes. That includes the council's employee. And there's no way that that we could give COLA raises to the employees without giving raises to the council employees. That's a legal question. It's my understanding that we have to.
So it is in the contract right now.
Right. Okay, it is, yeah, I knew, okay, I knew it was in the contract, but there's no way to get around that at this time.
There is, there could be a addendum that the persons who have the contracts could voluntarily opt out of a one-time. It would be a one-time addendum to the contract, renegotiable.
Because my feeling is that I'd like to see the employees get a cost of living raise, because that stays with them throughout their career with the city, versus giving them $1,000, it doesn't. And so, but I didn't know if we were able to do it with the council's employees, and if there's a way to get around that, and I don't know exactly how you do it.
There is a legal method to do that, yes.
I would recommend that to the council, if it works.
Madam Chair.
I don't know if you're going to get a consensus, Sean. We all have a different thought process. My personal opinion is that we adopt part of the salary study percentage-wise, like 20% of the proposed salary study. But that's my personal opinion. And it doesn't sound like any of us have the same answer. So, Councilmember Weisenberg?
I could agree with what Councilwoman Smith had said about the $1,000 across the board per employee. You know, and that would be on the bottom line, and hopefully we have better revenues next year. But that would be a permanent deal if we could implement something like that. I don't know if it'd have to be a percentage, have to figure out that, or if we could just do it that way. I would agree to that. I don't like the fact that it's on the bottom line still, with not knowing what the revenues will come and be, but I could steer that way if need be.
Just a couple thoughts. Because of the cost increase in gas and everything that we're all seeing right now, we should see an increase in sales tax due to that. And which is why I think people are able, businesses are able to do the cost of living increases, is because, especially in local government, because there is an offset, the revenue will go up because of that. And so I'm personally, I'm more in favor of doing a cost of living. I think it's a little bit simpler. It's already in there right now. I think it's a little bit easier to swallow to not do the salary study yet. But I know there's pros and cons. I think we're kind of saying that right now. And then I know Councilwoman Smith, you mentioned that we do have an incoming amount of ARPA funds, which
yes.
basically equals this amount that we're deficit, and the council could, the way that we applied for those funds just recently is that it'll just go into our cash reserves, and so that could make us just dead even there, and then that's dead even with the increase in the sales tax and being able to do a COLA. I don't know. And another thought too is where we just cut so much from the budget. I really would like to see that we do something like that for them. I'm in favor of doing the 3%, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Councilwoman Smith?
I would like to address the ARPA funds. It's $750,000. I did not see it in the budget in the revenue side. And I checked that out a little bit. The problem that if we put the $750,000 ARPA funds in revenue, yes, that balances out. We're still 50-some thousand in the hole. But we haven't, all of that is going to be infrastructure money that goes to probably the water and infrastructure on water. But we put it in for cash, but we're not taking and allocating it back out on the expenditure side. So if you did that, it'd be a wash. but for the time being, until we could see where your revenues are, we don't know what the cash carryover is going to be on June 30th yet. So that also taints this a little bit. But that would go a long way to alleviating not balance, alleviating and not having a balanced budget. So there's some avenues out there I think you can look at rather than cutting 11 positions.
Yeah, another factor too is that we have heard from the choke cherry, what's her name?
Yes.
Kara.
Mhm.
She sent out that notification that they are starting construction just like they did last year, and that's as good of indication as anything that we're gonna have hopefully a pretty good year for our sales tax revenue. And we have, I think there's now three positions that have become open that we just held, and we're not filling them. And then that's what we want to do throughout the fiscal year, is the ones that we fill that we can pull back on. And so by next year, when we're looking at this, and actually thinking about this, just within two, or actually I would say the 3 positions that we've already held, that would offset doing a 3% COLA already. And when you look at it that way, I feel like we're getting to where we need to be. It's going to take a little bit as we go throughout this year to slowly whittle away. Another thing, I was talking to Tom about this today, is after we do the water rate increase, I am interested in having this individual, and I want to take a deep dive myself, is look at all of the rates in the general fund. There's 2 pages worth of rates, and I wonder if we can make some tweaks to help with some of that revenue. If it makes sense, and it's not going to be too much of a burden, but there's just some different ways that we can kind of tackle and get to where we more want to be. But so just a few thoughts.
Any other discussion?
I guess my question is to Linda, is that you're talking about a COLA raise versus a bonus, right?
That's correct. Right now, it's in the budget for 3% COLA raise.
Right.
And I don't have an objection to that if we can whittle down that $794,000.
Okay.
And that's where I'm coming from anyway.
Because I prefer a COLA raise versus a bonus. I think it helps the employees a heck
I
of a
do
lot
too.
more if that would take
I really
place.
do. But I just wanted to make sure if we couldn't do that, we could do something.
Okay.
And the other thing I was thinking about was, I've been traveling, so my brain's dead now. Well, I guess what I'm just going to flat out do is just move to amend the motion to say to pass this budget on second reading with the proviso that the city manager and finance officer and department heads come up with a recommended balanced budget for the third reading, and that's the proviso, I guess I put in.
Is that
there.
a friendly amendment? Or how?
Well,
do we have to find the?
No,
Okay.
we can vote on it, but we can
Okay.
also do a friendly amendment if you'd like.
I was just curious, because doesn't Tabari, because he did the second, right?
No, he made the motion.
He made the original
and
motion. Okay.
Councilmember Smith did the second.
Okay, so we'll vote on hers first, right? And then we'll go to his? If that doesn't.
No, if he'll accept it, yeah.
Okay,
accept
okay,
her
thank you.
recommendation.
Thanks for clarifying that.
So, yeah, if it passes, then.
Any questions about that? Sean?
What is the amendment?
You want me to repeat it?
Yes, please, thank you.
Chair. Councilman Durst, what my amendment would be is to pass the city budget on second reading with a proviso that the staff brings back to third reading a balanced budget addressing that $794,000 deficit.
Does that make sense, Aaron?
We're leaving it up to the staff, Aaron, to tell us what they want.
Councilmember Weisberg?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just want everybody in the public that's listening or here to know and understand my position on the budget at this point in time. State statute for the city manager to present us a balanced budget, and at this point in time, we don't have a balanced budget. I do understand we have a third reading, but I'll be voting against the budget at this point in time because it's not amended and balanced on the second reading.
Okay. Any other council? Sean.
Just a clarification, as of right now, it is a balanced budget that's in front of you, just so you know. It is balanced at 0. It's basically what it's doing is just pulling from reserves.
Yes, and we don't want to do that
Right,
because
just as a clarification.
we've got $5.8 million unaccounted for yet. Yes, we have marvelous grant things out there already. We've got avenues of funding that we can go for. We've got a great grants writer. But right now, we need to get this to state, but I'm not willing to put it in with $794,000 when we only have $963,000 here for our cash flow, and then we have to pull $794,000 out of that. That doesn't sell with me. So anyway, I want you to come back with $794,000 in cuts and revenues additions.
I do, as we have frozen some positions and will continue to do so, one of the positions that I would request the council not freeze is the HR specialist position because it helps all of our employees. So I would like to have your feedback on that one, please.
Say that again.
Oh, sorry, I probably was talking a little quiet. The HR specialist position, that's one position I'd like to unfreeze because it helps all of our employees. And so that would be the one position I'd like to unfreeze right now, but we'll continue to freeze other positions.
Councilmember Weisenberg?
Yeah, I'm against unfreezing that position at this time. We're having to make extremely difficult cuts, or staff is, and if anything happens and we have to cut a position by some chance, then I don't believe that it'd be fair to those individuals to have someone else employed.
Councilmember Garner?
I think we should unfreeze it, and the reason is if he finds a position that leaves or recommends a position to be removed before the HR specialist, that's the recommendation we should go off of, not your opinion of a position. It should be the city's opinion. So if he finds other positions that are better to be removed, I think that is the approach that we should take. So if he's recommending this to be unfroze and he can find another spot to freeze if somebody leaves, or if we come to this situation where we have to make a cut, then he chooses, he's going to make the choice anyway. So I think we
His
still
job.
put that in his hands.
So I'm kind of looking for direction on that one, or some.
Could we vote on the motion and then staffing is your prerogative by state statute? I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of turn here, but state statute says it's your prerogative to move people around and hire and fire and do whatever you need to do. It's not our job to go position by position. I do think this position is in the budget. It's just frozen because of that $794,000. So I'm saying to you, if you bring back next reading what we're asking, then if this motion passes, then I'm comfortable talking about it. But I don't think it's fair if we have to cut somebody or 2 or 3 positions that's not by attrition, then it's not fair to hire other people after we're rifting. And I just have a philosophical problem with that. But I know you have the right to move people around to meet your needs. So I'm not getting into that one.
So your recommendation is to pass this motion and allow the city manager to bring back
No, my motion doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm just asking him to do that. My
That's
motion
right.
sticks
Two separate-
with,
it's two
yes,
separate-
it's a different
two
issue with
two
me.
separate issues.
Yes. I just want to pass this tonight and have him make recommendations on where to find that $794,000. And bring it back on third reading, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Do you have the motion, Lynn?
I have the motion is reading, move to amend the budget on second reading and waive the reading and have the staff bring back a balanced fiscal 2022-2023 municipal budget for the third reading. Is that okay?
Yes. Let's open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 5 yeas and 1 nay. The 1 nay was Councilmember Weisenberg.
Okay, moving on to second reading and waiving the reading of the ordinance amending Title 10, Chapters 1002, 1072, and 1082, bicycles and scooters. Do you have a motion? Councilmember Garner?
Move to approve the second reading and waive the reading of ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 10.02, 10.72, and 10.82, bicycles and scooters.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilmember Martinez seconds. So we have a motion made and seconded. Does anybody want to present on this, or? Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of Pam Thayer, who gave me direction as far as what to tell you all, is that basically, as part of bringing in more quality of life, interesting transportation, entertainment for tourists, people coming off the trails, and for locals, we have advocated for having scooters available to ride from one end of town to the other, and this ordinance would allow us to do that. There is a company that is interested in coming in and providing those services, but of course it's open to any company that would want to come in and do that. Do y'all have any questions?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, let's open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving on to the third and final reading and waiving the reading of ordinance, amends section 108020, municipal officers authorized to issue citations. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Martinez?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to pass on final reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amend section 1.08.020 municipal officers authorized to issue citations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Garner seconds. Motion was made and seconded. Do we have any discussion? All right, let's open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, before we move on to new business, I would like to take a 10-minute recess.
We will stay live with sound.
Because I changed my password.
Yeah, you know those IT people, they get kept inside.
Sure, yeah. She said there was a waiver giving raises to our 3 employees.
We can ask, but
We ask them.
if you want to, I don't care. I'm not going to, but it's up to
I
you.
just filled up a gate. When we hired her, and then we gave the manager a raise not too long ago, and the judge, we didn't talk about it. We haven't done anything with him.
Never
That's
thought I'd
okay.
need it.
And then the employees would get the COLA raise.
Comes up here, you need to do the clarity.
So actually, so you want to switch that, so it's not close to
Okay, so we don't need to ask the judge. I'll ask.
So how are we
I'll ask
going
Sean.
to get all these emails?
I'll ask Sean, he might disagree with me.
Yeah, so Rollins WY, so it's just Rollins.wy.gov.
Oh, it's not Wyoming, it's just.
Yeah, it's just Rollins WY. You get rid of the hyphen.
Oh,
thank you. Yeah, no problem.
Easy.
And that's
Easy
it,
enough.
huh?
Oh. Why did I change my?
Let me remember my credentials. I won't forget.
Okay, stop it. Why? That's right.
Honestly, don't know. Okay.
Okay, so mine's working, but it's got to update, obviously.
Yeah,
So now how do I get on my phone?
So phone, those are right there.
Yeah, here, go for it. I'll give you the phone.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where sometimes the phones react properly and sometimes they don't. That's what I've witnessed with them. So what I just need to do is just install the company portal.
Okay, do what you gotta do.
Okay, sure thing.
You need a passcode?
Okay, sure thing.
8200.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it says. Probably over his ratio.
This week I'm gonna have
I don't want to say CSU, but like somewhere there, like Brian walk around with the CSU shirt on. He used to wear it all the time when the CSU was playing, you know, just to poke. So actually,
Yeah. They just come in there and now, any one color, I'm telling you, they do that. Yeah. He's got the right thing. But I'm a neighbor looking directly at it and they do this. Oh. It's a year.
He's actually in for a year.
All right, Linda, that is all set here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you put an address on it for me.
Yes, I will. I will. Put it on. Okay.
Is there
Do you
any
need
more?
another one?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go upstairs. Oh, you got first? Okay, you want one for everybody? Does anybody else want anything? I only have like 3 up there, I think. Just bring them all down.
I need to send password warning to your person.
Yes.
So that's honestly,
I mean, even, I'm just trying to learn that.
Oh, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to.
Okay, so where were you now?
Kansas, Nebraska.
We're so close, yeah, we're so close.
All right, I'll just take a moment.
So your email's working, so you should have
awesome.
I've already been here for a while. We've been here for a week and a half. First week in June.
Haven't been able to get them.
Let's go.
Okay. So how far are we? Let's see. Oh, down here. Accounts payable.
Where did Daryl run off to? I know.
One time you get to do it and they give you the whole 2 pages.
Yeah. And I cut some stuff.
Huh?
I cut some stuff.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, thank you.
Brad, accounts payable, huh?
Yeah. Well, approval of payroll first. I stopped
approval
new
of
business.
payroll.
Yeah, I stopped a new business.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna call this meeting back to order at 9:48.
I got emails back. I'm good.
Oh, good. All right, moving down to new business and the approval of the payroll. Can I entertain a motion? Councilmember Weisenberg?
I move to approve the April 24th, 2022 through May 7th, 2022 payroll register for the amount of $241,615.75.
Second.
Councilmember Garner seconds. The motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving down to accounts payable. Councilwoman Smith?
I move to approve the accounts payable register for the period of April 27, 2022 to May 13, 2022 in the amount of $230,788.12.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve the accounts payable. Any discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Okay, moving on to approve the Sage Creek Basin Springs Phase 1 change order number 6. Can I entertain a motion? Councilmember Martinez?
I'll make a motion to approve the Sage Creek Basin Springs Phase 1 change order number 6.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember Garner seconds. The motion has been made and seconded. And all right, it's all you.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to discuss the change order for erosion control on our construction project, and to accomplish what we need to do to meet state regulations for erosion control needs to reduce the sediment load that goes into the state waters. My recommendation is that we would use these erosion logs to be staked and prevent that runoff water, that's the surface water, sheet flow water, from flowing into the state waters up on the project. And in doing so, it'll save the city a liability in terms of potential fines from DEQ. And right now on our small construction permit, it's an automatic permit when it's less than 5 acres, but there are stipulations that we do maintain to maintain the erosion control on the project. And so I believe the total cost is $38,700 is the total cost to install those erosion logs on the project and include them in a site map and be in line with the state regulations.
Any questions?
Do we have some of those erosion logs already there, or that's what I thought I seen that day we run out.
Right.
So we're going to utilize those, and this is just for the installation of those?
So those were actually provided by the contractor, and he was running at risk to install those. So those were ordered by the contractor, and they began to install those, and we've had a couple issues with the installation, but this is to make whole the costs that the contractor is incurring to make sure that they are in compliance with the permit. It wasn't included in the original contract because the original contract was an emergency contract, and there's just a lot of things that were left out.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Oh, did I need to mention? There was one more thing, if I may,
Sure.
to interrupt. We are also looking at, in terms of the budget, I got a little ahead of myself. The budget for the project itself, we're going to be exceeding the original project budget by approximately $20,668. And to accomplish this, I was looking at making the project budget whole with the Chokecherry Wind Impact Assistance Funds. There's an available balance of $1.292 million for that kind of work, for construction that was identified. And of that, that sum for Chokecherry Wind, we'd be pulling approximately $30,000 for that. In addition, we also have parts that were not ordered for the construction project, which are necessary for completing the project. We said originally we would be supplying those. So I'm looking at a total budget amendment to the project from the Chokecherry Wind Farm of approximately $200,000 so that we can stay whole and get the project done and do it right.
Councilmember Weisenberg?
Were we allowed to use those on enterprise funds? I didn't believe we were.
Could we have some clarification on that? Because here, okay, we had $1.2 million set aside out of impact assistance funds for this project. Okay, so you're needing $200,000 more to add to that? Did I hear this wrong? I guess I need some clarifications on exactly what we're doing out of impact funds, because we've already allocated those out.
Yeah.
And I didn't think we had any more money left there.
Tell me if I'm getting this wrong too, but so the council a while back, and I think it was $1.55 million, that half of it was the ARPA, half of it was from the general fund that the council approved for this project right here. And so I believe Austin is saying that this change order, this $38,000, is going above what the council.
Above that 1.2?
1.55 is what it was. What
Yeah.
the council originally designated the ARPA
Mhm.
and the general fund money to be able to do this, to fix all these fixes. And so you're requesting that this extra $38,000 would go to ARPA. And then remember how we have the additional $2 million in ARPA. So now what we're talking about is this extra money right here would go to that amount. And I can provide more of a summary later if you need some.
I would like that because you've got me confused
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I'm taking
No,
time,
it's okay.
but
It's been a very stressful night. I understand.
I feel very strongly about providing both tracks that you're on for repair and then replacement. We've got two things going on and we're balancing all these balls in the air. But we can't stop repairing now, and to do, that'd be stupid of us to not go forward. So wherever we have to find $30,000, let's do it.
Okay.
And I know it's not easy, but we can't stop now.
And I can clarify the one. So the 1.2 is what we initially designated out of the ARPA. I know what you're talking about.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
And then we realized, visiting with Dennis, looking at cash balances in our bank, that we had $2 million more in impact assistance for Chokecherry sitting there. And so let me send an updated file.
It'd be good, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving down to awarding the RFP for the pretreatment plant startup project. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Garner?
I move to award the pretreatment plant startup project to Y2 Consultants LLC in the amount of $530,183.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Do you want to fill us in?
Yeah, sure. So what I'd like to discuss is the pretreatment startup project. So in the pretreatment startup project, it was identified that there would be a need to have a consultant engineer, operator, and SCADA technician to come help get the project started, where we would get the pretreatment plant back up and running to give us resiliency in our system so that we can potentially come back and get enough water to irrigate in town. And so with that, it pulls water from the river, and the pretreatment plant may be able to treat up to 4.5 million gallons a day, which is an enormous amount of water for us. Considering how much water we have right now, it's about 1.5 million gallons a day. So with that, the pretreatment plant would be a good opportunity for the city. So we went through a consultant selection process. We had the RFP. We had one apparent proposal from Y2 Consultants. The scope was fairly narrow. I'll be honest. The scope that I identified for the project was fairly narrow. So a lot of consultants respectfully declined applying for it because we requested that we would have certain credentials for the staff so that they could meet our needs based on the current crisis that we're in. And so with that, Y2 submitted, and we went through a review, our operators, and I went through a process of scoring the rubric for the consultant, and it was an acceptable score. And I recommend that we move forward with this consultant, Y2 Consultants. So in that, there are a couple of different details. So with their proposal, they included the startup cost of approximately, I think it's a little over $300,000, and then another $200,000 for the design, the potential design work for any additional improvements that the plant needs as well. So any kind of infrastructure upgrades, or like let's say that there's a particular treatment section that uses a particular chemical and we need to expand the size of that portion of the facility, getting a design engineer to provide us a set of drawings and specifications to construct it and to award that to a contractor to build at a later time. The construction is not on the $200,000, but that would be for the design. My recommendation is that we move forward with including the design with this to a total of $500,000 to encumber the $530,000 with choke cherry funds as well, and to encumber it and to set that aside for the project. That doesn't mean that we have to spend that. And I went away from the standard that I've been seeing in the state of Wyoming, which is lump sum, and I moved forward with the contract being at an hourly rate for our consultants. So we don't spend any more than we have to, if you see my point. And especially with the design portion, if there's no need to do the design, and we're able to do this with just adding the chemicals, getting the people trained to do the work, then there's $200,000 that we can unencumber and move to a different project or whatnot at a later time. So I believe if we don't do the additional design in this task order, we may have to go back to RFPs later, and it could potentially push our schedule back a couple months with another RFP process at a later time. And so I feel that including this design work is a good way to go.
So what's your schedule? When do you think this treatment plant's going to be? That's the question that the people are asking me.
Yeah.
I'm not an engineer, I don't know.
So I really want to give a shout out to the city manager and to our city clerk and to the city attorney for accelerating this today to where I have an agreement ready for your signature today. It's at your pleasure to award this. So that just trimmed off potentially, I think it was almost 2 to 4 weeks of time that we were able to do this week. It was an incredible hurdle that we jumped over, that we may have to do an amendment if we spot something in the contract that there's an issue. We may have to come back at a later time and amend. But at this time, my expectation is that their teams would be ready within the next couple of weeks to start putting boots on the ground. They're extremely eager. Y2 Consultants is very qualified, and they are eager to help the city in our current crisis. They see our troubles. They worked extra hours trying to get us this agreement. After hours, taking family time that they could have been spending with family, they were working on getting us this agreement. And I really greatly appreciate all the efforts that Y2 Consultants has put forth.
Once they get started, how long do you think it's going to take to finish this, to get it going?
That's a good question. My anticipation, based on prior knowledge or previous experience with other folks, I'm expecting less than 2 months we'll see results. But then again, there may have been troubles where, we had polymers that were plugging up filters. It's hard to say. It's very difficult to say. But my hope is that we can get it within the next 2 months to get some level of operation out of our pretreatment plant.
Okay.
Councilwoman Smith?
Thank you. If they are able, okay, we've been through this process once before, and the ball got dropped because of change of administrations. We were ready to put that pretreatment plant back online.
Mm-hmm.
So my question, that was the information I've gotten from several different people who worked out there and were in charge of some of that. So my question to you is, if they go through that first process of discovering the right mix of chemicals, that all the screens are the right size, that all the filters are the right size, whatever we need to do out there. And I don't know what else they're going to have to do. But if they find that first preliminary step is completed and we can go online with it and we don't have to do the other two, then those are just options and they won't fulfill them because you would be telling them we don't need it.
I'm thinking that if we had this thing totally up and running within 2 months, I doubt it's going to be the total 317. Okay. I can't remember the number, $1,000. I really doubt that. It's hard to spend that much money, unless of course, a lot of it depends. So if I'm not watching them carefully, if I'm not doing my job, they could run that pretty quickly. So I have to be very diligent.
But my other question to you then, does this also explore and look into the filter from Saratoga? The big nether filter to put out there from Saratoga?
So you make an excellent point. So today I went and spoke with John Winters from the town of Saratoga, the director of public works, and we're discussing it right now, looking at it. I took photos and sent those to our operators today for review. They're a different system than what we have. The idea, the concept is the same, but the equipment is different, if that makes sense.
Is it a DE?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, they are DE. And I think it's an excellent opportunity if we can find some way to acquire those, if indeed it helps us in the long run. And that's part of what Y2 Consultants is going to do, is they're going to look at that option. And we'll identify all of our assets.
Councilmember Weisenberg?
Yeah, so just so I understand, originally we had talked about 300,000. So now this 230 plus is going to come out of impact assistance?
That would be my expectation, is it would be under impact assistance, under the city council's budget.
It's already allocated over for this?
No, this would be a new allocation of money.
Okay, and then the next question is, I've been contacted by a few individuals that was within our community that have very extensive water treatment backgrounds and stuff. Mm-hmm. I just want to kind of, I guess my question is this Y2 Consulting, is this engineering firm or is it a chemical firm? Because I've been told that if you contract your chemicals out with water treatment, they will come in and get your pre-treatment and everything lined out for you. That's what they do. That's their job when you're buying, if you award them a contract. And Several of these individuals said it's a way cheaper method to do. Have we explored that option, or is this that option?
Well, you make an excellent point. We'll have to get back to you on that one. But any cost savings that we would see with that option would be realized in the project, because I'm not going to allow them to charge something that we have information for already. So
I just want that, out there so we can look at a vendor or whatever we need to do at that point in time to reduce the cost if need be.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? All right. Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving on to the approval considering authorizing staff to remove one-way, no parking anytime sign located on the west side of Colorado Street near Key Club Park. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Garner?
I move to authorize staff to remove one-way, no parking anytime sign located on the west side of Colorado Street near Key Club Park.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Jason or Cody, whoever.
I feel this item is fairly routine, and all the information is in your report. We'd be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Hey, Councilmember Weisenberg?
Only question I have is maybe possibly a concern with individuals that live right there or have a building right there. Is this with the parking going to be enforced now? Is that going to create a issue with individuals parking across the street with the restriction from the length of the streets and stuff?
So I had Austin go out there and we did a measurement of the street. We have plenty of room to park on both sides of the street. We really think that the reason why the sign was put there before, because there was two businesses right there, and they didn't want like dilapidated cars being parked down the street to where it was blocking everything. Businesses are gone, and we'll watch it closely. If there's any kind of a problem starting up, then maybe we can put up a sign that says no parking between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. so that we can keep the overnight parking down. But this is just so we can open up more parking for the park.
I appreciate that. It was just a safety concern.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Okay, moving on to item F, consider entering into agreement for the Rochelle Ranch Golf Course Restaurant. Councilmember Martinez?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to consider entering into agreement for the Rochelle Ranch Golf Course Restaurant.
1 second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Jason?
Would you like me to provide a brief overview?
Sure, that'd be great.
Madam Vice Mayor and Council. JT and Kristen Johnson have approached staff and are interested in operating a restaurant. And one good news of that is they are interested in operating year-round, which is something we've been really hoping for a few years. They've submitted a proposal and a business plan request to operate a restaurant at the golf course. They wish to name the restaurant the 19th Hole Bar and Grill. We feel they'd be a great fit out there, and we've been working with them the last several weeks on getting things in line, and I will say that they've been very proactive, and they're almost like turnkey ready to go. They are pre-approved from the health inspector to open pending inspection tomorrow. They have most of, if not all of the licenses and permits in place. If council does wish to approve the agreement, I will be meeting with the concessionaires to get all the paperwork in line, make sure that everything is covered and ready to go prior to opening the restaurant. So staff's recommendation is to move it to enter an agreement with John JT, and Kristen Johnson for the purpose of the Rochelle Ranch Golf Course Restaurant starting May 17th, 2022, and continuing through May 15th, 2023.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, like legal counsel, I would like to ask you about the liquor license, because it's a City of Rollins liquor license, and they would be taking and using our liquor license, I'm sorry, I can't remember for sure if in the state statutes they have to have set hours, but it doesn't have to be like from 8 to 10. They can set their own hours as long as there's set hours per week.
That is correct. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I just have a question for legal. When I was reading through the contract and stuff, I just want to make sure the dates are correct in here and the way it's worded. To me, the way I read this, it's section 4, it's page 3 of the contract right now. The way I was reading it, the $400 is for the first 4 months, paid tonight if approved. But it says it's beginning May 17th through September 15th. The way I kind of read that, that's a fee of $700 in that time frame. The way I read that, I just want you to clarify that's not what I am. You know what? You see what I'm saying? If you could, quick.
We basically were giving them the option to do the same payment schedule as the previous concessionaire attempted. So they had the breakdown of a smaller payment for the first 4 months.
Correct, but the way this is worded, and I'll read it if you need to, it says, beginning May 17th through 2022 through September 15th, 2022, concessionaire shall pay the city a usage fee of $700 per month, payable in the advance of the 15th day of each month. So I don't want the concessionaire to think that it's $400 a month and actually end up paying $700, because the way I read this, it's $700 immediately every month, not for the first 4 months, the way the dates roll in that contract. If you could look at that.
Absolutely, I will look at that.
So we can get this contract straightened out if it needs to before we approve that.
He's missing the first.
Yeah.
He missed this first line here, because then he started.
So the very first part of it, it's 4A, is that correct?
Correct.
It starts out with, upon execution, they pay the amount of $400, which is $100 per month for the first 4 months.
Correct.
And after that, it's $700 a month, payable on the 15th of each month.
Yes, and I understand that, but that it says beginning May 17th, and it's all one sentence, a comma in there. Concessionaire shall pay the city a usage fee of $700 per month. So that to me tells me that they're gonna pay. I mean, if.
No, you're absolutely correct. It should say beginning September 15th.
Yeah.
Thank you for catching that.
So I don't want a concessionaire to say, wow, now I got 400, now I'm 700, so.
No, you're absolutely correct. That should say beginning September 15th. We will get that fixed immediately.
Please.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good job.
Anything else? Good catch.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Councilwoman Smith?
Do we need to make an amendment? Or if we adopt this, then we would amend it to include that? Or is this going to be just done automatically?
If you approve with amendment, then I can make the change without
Okay.
bringing it back.
And the motion doesn't include with amending.
We could just have a friendly amendment with whoever read that.
Yeah.
Yes. Second.
Who? I don't remember who.
I made the motion.
Do you want to make a friendly amendment to include that?
I would make a friendly amendment to make the changes that we asked for.
The dates, correct,
The date,
dates,
the
okay.
right dates.
I would
Correct
second
dates,
that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
thank you. I just wanted to make sure, like I said, when I was reading through this contract, there was something else in there too, but with the night I lost track of it, but.
Thank you. I'll get
This
that
was
fixed
the biggest
immediately.
thing I seen, so.
Lynn, can you read that back to us when you're ready?
section is it? Section A?
4A, I think. 4A. Usage fee.
So the motion will read, move to enter into an agreement with John T. and Kristen Johnson for the purpose of the Rochelle Ranch Golf Course Restaurant starting May 17th, 2022 and continuing through May 15th, 2023, with the dates being corrected to remove May 17th, 2022 on page 3, section 4A. Is that
sufficient?
Is that okay?
We have to add the dates though, correct? Did you add the correct dates in there?
Starting starting September 15th, it will finish through, the date, the ending is May 15th, 2023. So just removing that one will work.
Okay.
So what I put is correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
And thank you for that. And to clarify, that was my error, not Wendy's error.
No, I just
so
seen it.
I appreciate that.
You know, and I was like, wait a second, this, the way it was worded with the comma,
Yeah.
you know, it was.
Lynn, when you're ready, can you open online voting?
All right. Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Thank you. And I'd just like to encourage council, staff members, and members of the public to go out there and help support this new restaurant in the city of Rollins.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, moving on to G, it's a resolution for the 2022 Bureau of Justice Assistance Ballistic Vest Partnership Grant. Councilwoman Smith?
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the submission of the Bureau of Justice Assistance Ballistic Vest Partnership Grant for the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget cycle in the amount of $16,600 to assist in the cost of new and replacement vests for the sworn Rollins Police Department officers.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Chief Ward?
Thank you. Bureau of Justice Assistance falls under the DOJ. Its job is to funnel federal money to local municipalities. This particular grant runs from April of 22 to August of 24. During that time period, the Rollins Police Department is scheduled to purchase up to 13 new ballistic vests. We purchase them for new issue, and they are also on a 5-year replacement cycle. They don't all get replaced at the same time. It depends on when they're initially issued. The reason they are on a 5-year cycle is the material they're made out of is Kevlar, and it deteriorates over time. So during the life of this particular grant, we're scheduled to purchase up to 13 new vests, which we would have to do anyway. The grant would pay for up to $16,600 for half of each vest.
All right, any discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Okay, moving on to another resolution for the WYDOT National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Grant for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. Can I entertain a motion? Councilmember Garner?
Move to approve WYDOT Highway Traffic Safety Administration grant in the amount of $11,683.27 to cover overtime of Rollins police officers for fiscal year 2022 to 2023.
I'll second that.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution for the WYDOT National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Grant for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. Chief Ward?
So this is federal money that would be used to pay officers overtime to work outside of their normal schedule to focus on things like DUI and seatbelt enforcement. There's no copay or matching funds required.
Great. Councilwoman Smith?
As I remember in the past, we've gotten, maybe not exactly these funds, but we did apply for and receive funds to do extra enforcement overtime, like prom nights or those events in town that people go out and maybe have too much fun and.
Yeah.
And
I think you might be
is
referring.
this the same?
There's the UDO grant, which is the underage or alcohol enforcement grants that we use for prom and also for overtime for officers to work music in the park. That one's more specific to alcohol. This one is for DUI, but it's federal money coming through NHTSA, and I think that you're referring to one that's a different one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to another resolution to authorize the amendment of the fiscal year 2021-2022 municipal budget to reflect correct expenditures and revenues. Can I entertain a motion? Councilmember Garner?
I move to approve resolution, authorize the amendment of fiscal year 2021-2022 municipal budget to reflect correct expenditures and revenues.
Have a second?
I'll second it for the purpose of discussion.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded for purposes of discussion. Sean?
I believe the council had approved something like this before, and then when we just changed not paying off the loans to the other funds, we have to adjust this again to get it right. So
that's just the change on the revenue that we decided not to pay off on the landfill. Is that correct?
Yeah, and this just reflects that it's a balanced budget. It's just fixing it.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Councilwoman Smith?
Will this change if we have new figures next hearing? I mean, is there a chance that this is going to change by the third hearing on the budget?
No, because this is FY22 that we're looking at.
Okay, so, this is what we just.
21.
Okay, it's last year's, okay.
Yeah,
So you're finishing the audits on this one, okay, gotcha, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, all right, Lynn, can you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open.
Yes, now it
I
is.
need some AC going.
Yeah.
And some more water.
There's right here.
You have the rest of mine.
Online voting is
Don't do
closed.
that.
The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Right now.
It's probably locked.
All right, moving on to another resolution. This is a joint resolution amending the 2019 specific purpose tax escrow account escrow agreement to permit the Carbon County Treasurer to make distributions from 2019 specific purpose sales and excise tax collections.
Fine, thank you.
I'd entertain a motion. Councilmember Garner?
I move to approve the joint resolution amending the 2019 specific purpose tax escrow account escrow agreement to permit the Carbon County Treasurer to make distributions from 2019 specific purpose sales and excise tax collections.
I have a second.
Again, I'll second that.
The motion's been made and seconded. It says Clerk Lynn?
It's something that we do every year.
Yes, so the county sent this to me. They were asking just to do an amendment to the previous resolution that was out last year in November to just clarify, so, I can't I am so sorry.
In a nutshell, when they allotted the monies, when they made the rules last year when it was approved, they neglected to allow themselves to pay for expenses out of the escrow account. So they are simply asking, they set it up basically incorrectly and didn't have a way to pay for their expenses. So the county commissioners have already reviewed this, and they are simply asking to set it up the way it should have been in the first place so that they can pay their expenses from escrow monies.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, what's that amount?
1%.
I mean, are we voting on something that we don't know what they're gonna charge that account?
It's based on the 2019 taxes, and it's that 1% tax for payment of operation fees and expenses.
Any other discussion?
Yes. Wendy, was that voted on? I mean, when this 2019 issue was passed, was this in the language?
No, it was supposed to be, and it was overlooked. This is how they are supposed to pay their operating expenses.
Yeah, but the words were not on the ballot, though, to pay them 1%, correct? This is just something that the bonding company and all this, and through this committee that they've got, I guess this is kind of closing the door after the horse is out, but I'm kind of, well, I guess it's statutory and it's legal and it was voted on.
It is. It was voted on. The problem, it doesn't add more tax or take tax away from anything. It simply allows them to actually pay the money for the operating expenses. They basically gave themselves no way to actually use these monies.
So it's just sitting there?
If I can, Councilmember Smith, I think in the past that was already in there to pay those expenses. They just didn't put it in this last time. Somebody's got to pay for the expenses of the board. I guess the committee is the one that makes the decision how much it's costing them to run this tax proposal.
Yeah, but I thought the treasurer's office handled that.
She sits on the
When the
committee.
escrow was set up, they did not provide the mechanism for paying this money.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. So does every town have to do this?
Yes, every town
Yes.
in the county.
And then, but as Councilwoman Smith has alluded to, this was this on the ballot for them to understand that did it have to be on the ballot for them?
No,
Because
this
it's
is
something the citizens have voted on, and that's what this is about. If we're gonna,
No, this is not affecting what was actually voted on. This is the structure of how what was voted on is accomplished. So they voted to actually do this tax. We now have to,
We have to amend the
they voted to do the tax. Now we have to be able to facilitate the tax. The problem is we do not have the mechanism to pay the expenses to send out, to spend the money that was voted on. Because we don't have the mechanism involved. Basically, the escrow is holding on the money. And we don't have the mechanism built into the escrow to be able to pay out the money as it was voted for. So it's basically coming in, but we can't put it out because the escrow was built incorrectly.
So
apparently I'm not explaining very well.
So we've received payments for the 6 penny, but it sounds like maybe others are not able to. Is that right?
Yes, the treasurer cannot pay it out because the escrow was set up improperly. So all they're asking is for the joint powers escrow to be amended.
So they want paid for their duties of sending out a check or the money to the communities.
No, they can't give out the money because the escrow is closed. It doesn't allow for the paying out. I don't know how else to explain it.
That makes sense.
It's the 1% tax from 2019.
I'm just thinking maybe it's some of the other entities where they're getting stuck because we've been receiving our 6 pennies.
Yeah,
So it's probably related to the other entities, maybe that they haven't been paid. I don't know.
So bottom line, it's legal to do this, right?
Yes, it is not changing anything that the voters voted for. It's simply allowing the money to go where it was meant to go. I'm sorry, I'm not explaining it well.
Well, they're asking for $10,000 more that was not going towards a project. But I suppose, I mean, I've worked on this kind of committee before, so I just kind of thought we just went in and we voted on to pay these things and they got paid, but I didn't know what expenses.
I'm more than happy to ask the treasurer to come in and give a better explanation.
When
if
is
that
this?
would make you feel better?
When is this needed, Wendy?
I did not have a deadline. Obviously, it can't be paid until this is fixed, so
Is that 10,000 divided amongst the rest of the communities, or is it?
I don't have an answer to that, sir.
10,000 per community?
It's probably taken right off the top, Councilman.
It's a white line.
It's $100,000, yeah.
So for all these years, yeah.
They requested it be done this month. However, obviously, I would rather the council be comfortable with it, and if it has to be pushed off to get someone to come in and explain it, I'm more than happy to do that.
Appreciate that.
Does somebody want to amend the original motion then?
Or you can just vote it down and I can bring it back.
Okay. Which way would be best?
Mechanically, it works the same for me either way.
Could I ask, but Wendy, if we vote it down though, I didn't know if we could bring it back right away. I thought if you vote something down, you have to wait a year to bring it back up. So we just table.
I believe, yes, yes, I'm.
Postpone.
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 I mixed those two up. Okay.
Yes.
Was it you,
Yeah, I
Councilwoman?
made
Linda?
that motion.
Daryl and then
I second it.
Martinez.
Yeah.
So do you want to just move to postpone?
It's
Is that
Daryl.
what the?
Yeah, I'd like to move to postpone.
I will get a speaker to come in to explain
And
it
I will
better.
I will second that.
Okay.
It's confusing.
Well, it's a 20-year project.
Yeah.
10,000 a year.
All right. So we're going to move to postpone the approval of the joint resolution amending the 2019 specific perfect task escrow agreement to permit the Carbon County Treasurer to make distributions from the 2019 specific purpose sales and excise tax collections. Lynn, when you're ready, please open online voting. Making Lynn type a lot tonight.
Sorry, Lynn.
It's okay.
What?
Losing it again.
It's just my thing.
feels like the heater's running. We turn the thermostat down to like 60.
That's right, manager. Yeah, it's remotely.
Okay,
Take your vest off.
so online voting is open.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank God he's tall.
Thank you, Austin.
Oh, yeah.
Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving on to resolution to authorize a landfill fee waiver for residential customers to bring one load for the time period of both June 15th through July 15th, 2022, and September 1st through the 30th, 2022 of construction and demolition waste as shown by a hard-to-duplicate voucher. Councilwoman Smith.
I so move.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Pat?
Hi, this is a fun one. Okay, you guys asked me to research what we could do instead of the Hell Week and it being so expensive. Came up with a fun one. We use vouchers, like a postcard. It'd be once a year, twice a year, whatever you guys want to do. It'll be for the whole month instead of just the week. So every billed customer, so if you pay your water bill, you will get a voucher. It's good for one free construction dump, and it doesn't matter as long as you're not a business. It's not commercial. It's just for the residential. So say like if you guys do like June or September, go through the whole month, they'll have like a postcard that they'll get in the mail. And we already went through this with Bev, Financial, and Nancy, and they already pretty much ran to see if they could do it. And it's pretty much already done. They just need to get the postcards to do it. On our side, on the landfill side, instead of spending all this money on upgrading our system to handle a different process, if we do it this way, it can handle it right now today. Like we have the line item in there, we can just use our free dump week that we do. It's still a line item. We can still use that as this voucher. So say if you come in with a load, a truckload or whatnot, and you have a voucher, you just give it to, say, Tammy. She's our shack person. She'll take it from you, and then she'll just ring you. Well, she'll put your weight in and stuff, and then you just go in, you go dump your construction, you come back out, you get waived on. That's it. Right now, today, with the Hell Week going on, there's no way to track this stuff. There's no way to make sure that they're even Rollins citizens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they were smart, they live in Casper, they live in Rock Springs, they know what's going on here when it is, they could just show up. It's Hell Week. As long as if you have construction, you're good to go. We have no...
I think it'll save.
I can tell you, I visited with a guy this week that was visiting me, and he told me when free dump fee what the day was, and I said June 4th, and he said, I said, well, you live in St. Clair.
Mm-hmm.
He says, yeah. He said, you must be supposed to be getting free dump fee out of Roland. He just kind of laughed it off, but I could see that happening real easy.
Yeah, we have no way to control this. We have no way, as of right now, to control this. With these vouchers, if you don't have a voucher when you come in, you don't dump. If it's...
Or you get charged.
Yes, if it's before or after, like, the month that we set up, it's pretty cut and dry. You don't dump. You have to have one. But we're not being real strict about it. Say, like, if you live in a little area, you take your voucher, you go use yours, but you still need more dumps, but you have an extra neighbor that has a voucher, but she's not going to use it, she can go ahead and give it to you, and you can go ahead and use it. As long as you have this voucher, you can use it. And it's Not duplicable because they're gonna put the tags on the top of the voucher, on the postcard, and I believe they're gonna stamp it, right?
So yeah, we're gonna print like a full on printing press, like of a postcard or something that you get, just like looks like it ran through a copy machine, and then the actual stamp will be, the sticker will be stuck to it.
Yes. You can't copy it. It's
Well, it works similar to when I go to the landfill, they'll stop me, wave me, usually they call me in so I can sign, because I have 3 accounts. So I use one of them at my house usually, and I'll sign for it. I've actually sent workers out to haul something, and they'll turn them down. They will not let them, they have to call me up, so I have to give them the okay.
And that'd be even better, you know, if you're a renter per se and you have, say, 3 houses. You get 3 vouchers for the water bill, and then you can go to your people that are renting and say, here's a voucher, why don't you clean this stuff up? Yeah, go ahead.
So, is this for one, or were you looking at both, the June through July and then the September 1st through 30th, that's it?
Well, with this, just looking at it right now, you guys could, if you guys like it, you guys can go once a year, you guys can go twice a year. It just depends on what you guys want to spend.
The motion twice.
No, the motion is for the 2 times.
Yeah.
Is to allow a spring and a fall, but that is, you know, the.
So that's a motion on the table now?
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
I'm in agreement to twice a year, you know, as long as you believe it's gonna benefit Hell Week, as you say.
Well, I've kind of picked those months there so they can fit perfectly, because when winter goes away and it's spring, you want to kind of clean your yard. So then you clean your yard, get it ready for your projects in the summer. Then you do your projects in the summer, and then in September, you're pretty much done with your projects. So you got another pile, so then you can throw that away.
Right. Awesome.
I like
I
this
it.
idea much better.
And it will save a ton of money because you don't have the same person going 5 times a day all the way through the week. He has one time to do it.
2 times.
Well, 2 times.
Sean?
The budget source for this, there's 3 listings here.
Yep.
There's non-departmental beautification, dangerous buildings fund, and the landfill fund. I would recommend where the landfill fund is doing the best of all of our enterprise funds that we pull it out of there and not out of the general fund or non-departmental. And dangerous building fund is not, it's gonna run out of funds. So I think I would just recommend to the council you do it from the landfill.
Awesome.
Do I need to put that in the motion?
Or it seems like it should be clarified since there's 3 budget sources there, just to use that source.
Okay, I would amend my motion to state as it was stated, plus that the funding source come from the landfill capital facility, as a capital facilities expense.
Who made the second of that?
I second.
Linda was, Councilman Smith and Weisenberg
Okay.
was second.
Yeah, I would second that.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Lynn, when you're ready, please open online voting.
Like it.
I want to say thanks to
Yeah,
Councilman
thank you.
Durst for, because I think he was the original one that actually asked about it, was he not?
Actually, I think it's, I thought it was you.
No, I thought it was before brought it up and there's.
All I know is I heard it from you, and I think it's a great idea.
I think it started out with some kind of coins or something they wanted to give, and I
Thanks for the work
suggested
on
that
this
they use a
and
voucher.
straightening it up, you know, it really will help out.
I actually seen it kind of implemented in Casper, like working at the time, and it's no hassle whatsoever. I mean, in and out. Boom.
Okay. I always avoided the dump leak.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, so online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving on to a resolution approving the special use permit for Wyoming Financial Properties, Inc., doing business as 307 Horse Racing. Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, I move to approve resolution approving the special use permit for Wyoming Financial Properties, Inc., DBA 307 Horse Racing, 310 West Cedar Street, lots 3 and 4, and the east 2 feet of Lot 5, Block 22 of the original town, now City of Rawlins, Carbon County, Wyoming.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
This was approved by Planning and Zoning, and we also have Mr. Kyle Ridgway available on the meeting if you have any questions for him.
Councilman Weisberg?
I just want, and maybe Mr. Ridgway will talk about this and discuss it, and I see you're here also. It's a great tax revenue base for the city. Not only the city, but the county. Sitting on planning and zoning, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's upwards of 15,000 a month, possibly 70, 100 a year. I can't remember exactly, but if you could give those figures to the rest of the council and so the public hears that too, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. So I'll introduce myself to everybody. My name is Kyle Ridgway. I am the Chief Operating Officer of 307 First, which is the parent company of 307 Horse Racing and Wyoming Financial Properties. Wyoming Financial Properties is the owner of the real estate at 310 West Cedar. 307 Horse Racing will be the operating business out of that location. That is our permitted by the Wyoming Gaming Commission entity that allows for wagering on horse races through various forms, including simulcast and what are known as historic horse racing terminals. And the way the law works in Wyoming on these historic horse racing terminals, which is essentially a way in which you can bet on a series of 3 historical horse racing events that are de-identified and gamified, so they're really fun and entertaining for the public, frankly. 1% of the total bet, also known as the handle, is taxed, half of which is split with the county. So 0.5% of the total bet out of this facility is tax revenue for the city. 0.5% of the total bet is tax revenue for the county. And the way that that's been projected by a third-party consultant out of this facility is somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 a year of total tax revenue, which would be split between the county and the city. It could well perform better than that. It could well perform worse than that. That's our base case. And so $150,000 to $200,000 in tax revenue cut in half, you're at $75,000 to $100,000 of tax revenue for the city that just gets paid to you by the Gaming Commission as our facility operates. And so you can break that down monthly, however you want. And in a lot of the communities that we've been in, you know, some of what I've discussed with some of the different communities is, I mean, there's pet projects that every community's got. This is real legitimate tax revenue. If this facility grows, we're certainly willing to continue to invest, add additional terminals, and expand on the facility we're at, where we've got an opportunity to do that given the open space in the back area that would allow for additional development if it turned out that this was a successful venture, which we think it's going to be. You know, you could easily start a fund with this money and after 5 or 6 years have a serious amount of money for a pet project of some kind, whether that's, you know, in some parts of the state it's affordable housing, in other parts of the state it's whatever it might be. I mean, this is certainly a subsidy that can help with the water pipeline project that you guys have going on and filling just general budget holes, if nothing else. And so a little bit about our business. I was born and raised in Casper. It's called 307 First. Anybody that's driven between Casper, Shoshone, or through other parts of the state has probably seen the steel art on the highways. The company was founded 30 years ago with the idea, how do we invest in and grow local Wyoming-based businesses that are owned in Wyoming? And so that's been our big mission is we have a number of different subsidiaries with the goal being, let's invest in our own, let's grow our own, and let's try to keep the money here, hire locally, and develop these projects locally. here, the tax revenue stays here. We can have nice partnerships with communities like Rollins and others around the state. We have, Rollins would be our 4th location. We have one in Gillette, one in Sheridan, one in Casper. Rollins would be our 4th. And then we've got a variety of other communities lined up to continue to go. So as this grows, we're going to continue to expand it. And we're excited to be here in Rollins. We've appreciated the relationships that we've developed with the city's economic development folks, including Nate Davison and the county's economic development folks, and with Pam Sayer, and she's also on the DDA. They've been intimately involved in helping us get through all these processes. And, I think we've met everything that statutorily we were required to do to open. This is kind of the last piece that we need. We've got approval from the Gaming Commission to open, and so we're looking forward to it. It should be a nice project for Rollins, a nice form of entertainment for Rollins, and a tax revenue generator that creates some good local jobs in a growing, expanding industry that's locally owned.
Councilmember Weisenberg?
Yeah, just one more thing. At planning and zoning you touched on, and it's a good thing to maybe touch on it again here, is a portion of this is a donation to a charity or something. Was that not, or for horse racing or for something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll give everybody the high level about what this industry is actually about. And I'm usually a little bit more structured than this, so I apologize. I think this version of this presentation I've given in the last 24 hours, not just to people in Rollins, but in other communities around the state, because we're growing very quickly. So, okay, what this business is all about is it's about live horse racing. So right now, there are 1,000+ horses in Gillette, Wyoming, geared up for 6 weeks of live horse racing that we put on every year at Campflex. And that's a nice industry that historically in the 70s and early 80s was a really good economic development engine for Wyoming, raising live race horses. For any of you that follow the Kentucky Derby, you can see what live horse racing has done for Kentucky. I think they had 150,000 people at Churchill Downs for the Kentucky Derby. And having that amount of horses show up in Gillette for 6 weeks, it brings trainers, it brings spectators, it brings all of the people associated that are required to put on an event like that. There was a study done in 1999 by the University of Wyoming that live horse racing in Evanston generated somewhere between $6 and $8 million of economic activity. But that industry was dying because there are a lot of other forms of entertainment, and a lot of the reason that horse racing was successful, decades ago was because it was one of the few ways where you could legally wager on something. So gambling's been, illegal in a lot of forms in Wyoming for a long time. That's starting to slowly change. We have sports betting now online. We have skill games, but pari-mutuel wagering has always been the first form of gaming that Wyoming has ever had that is not considered gaming. But the industry started to slowly die because many states started to legalize gaming, and that really hurt the horse racing industry. There were a lot of other reasons that hurt it, including, you can watch Netflix on your couch, so why would you go to a track for entertainment? So in Kentucky and a number of other states, they came up with these historic horse racing terminals, and they're a much more entertaining form for a lot of people to game but still participate in horse racing. And so Wyoming legalized these with the idea being for you to be able to have these historic horse racing terminals, you have to put on a slate of horse racing days in Wyoming. And then statutorily, a portion of the amount bet goes to the city and the county, like we talked about. 0.4% of the total bet goes to horse breeding in Wyoming. So last year, the industry generated approximately $4 million for horsemen throughout the state of Wyoming, including many in Carbon County, to basically have their horse breeding efforts subsidized. That subsidizes the cost for them to take them out of state for breeding if they need to, for travel expenses, for purchasing new horses or whatever. So it's a direct subsidy, and it also goes into a pool for Wyoming-bred specific live horse racing events in Wyoming. And so what the legalization of this in 2013 has done has taken Wyoming from having one track that was about to go into bankruptcy into 3 tracks with 3 successful operators, and it's taken the purse money from, a token amount of money up to, $3 to $4 million of purse money is available on a yearly basis at these live races. And you could get up to $5 or $6 million now out of these facilities going directly to horsemen in Wyoming. And then the tax revenues, substantially higher than that, 20 million plus for cities and counties throughout the state of Wyoming. So this is truly becoming a economic development engine and is starting to accelerate. And we're excited to be a part of it, and to be a part of it in a way where we know we're locally owned, and we know the money's not going to leave out of state. It's going to be reinvested in communities like Rollins and Casper and Sheridan, Gillette, and everywhere else.
Awesome, thanks.
All right, any other discussion? Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Mr. Ridgway, thank you very much for staying online and providing that information for us. We look forward to working with you.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Great, thank you, Mr. Ridgway.
Thank you very much for having us.
All right, moving down to ordinance, first reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amending Title 1524 for the Rollins Municipal Code and adopting the 2021 International Codes. Councilwoman Smith?
I move to approve first reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amending Title 15.24 for the Rollins Municipal Code and adopting the 2021 International Codes.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Ariel, did you want to discuss this?
Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Standard procedure.
Okay. All right. Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving on to ordinance, first reading and waive the reading of ordinance amending Title 19, Chapters 1923 to 1928, as recommended by the Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments. Councilmember Martinez?
For the purpose of discussion, I would make a motion that we approve on first reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amending Title 19, Chapter 19.23, 19.28, as recommended by the Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Open it up for discussion.
So I can give you just a brief.
That's what we needed.
So a lot of this is going to be setbacks, secondary structures, stuff like that again. It's going to increase to what it was before Title 19 was rescinded for secondary structures. The setbacks are going to change a little bit in mobile home parks. Instead of a 10-foot setback. We've discussed it all, and it was recommended to go to 8-foot setbacks. We have some older mobile home parks that cannot meet the 10-foot setbacks in the rear. So we adjusted that to make it 8-foot setbacks. There was no hassle about it. Nothing seen on a fire side, safety side. They can't access the rear of these anyways. That was kind of the tactic or the approach to look at it. There's some structural stuff in there about the material used for your secondary buildings and how far your spacing in between your primary structure and stuff like that can be. So if it's a non-combustible, I think the setback goes to like 1 foot maybe or something now, instead of where it was automatically 10 foot. So there's a lot of good in this. It'll be a lot of, it'll save a lot on Board of Adjustments for variances. At the same time, it'll allow for development, you know, for people to start getting building permits and building their secondary structures also. I think, I'm not positive, one other thing I think that that is in there, I believe, is allowing a garage to be built on a single lot instead of having to have a residential structure, I believe. Is that's in there too, right? Upwards of, you have 6 months to build a residential structure, your primary structure, but that'll go away. You won't have to do that, but you will have to meet the setbacks for the future of a building, of a primary structure. So it's just going to allow more development on individual lots through the community too.
Wasn't there a section in there that if they build a pole barn on a piece of property, that it has to be, instead of putting a home next to it or in front of it, they had to actually make a living quarters in the pole barn?
I'm not aware of that. I didn't see that in there. I think you can make I think that you still have to follow if I'm not mistaken, you still have to follow the percentage of the building has to be available, correct, for a residential? If you're gonna build a building of such.
Right, so that is not outlined in our code. I don't know if you're referring to one of the properties that are over there on South Side currently. That was his proposed project, is making that pole barn and having the residential living.
My understanding, he didn't have enough room to put a residential house in front, so he was able to build a pole barn, but he was supposed to have a living quarter built inside it. Is it?
Right, that was a few years ago. I don't know all the details about it, but I feel like that's what he proposed.
It's been changed.
Yes, I guess what is proposed in the ordinance now is that you can utilize a residential lot and put a accessory dwelling or unit on it, but you have to meet the setbacks to build a residential structure. Like if they were to sell that lot and somebody wanted to develop it and put a home on it. But currently, how that guy did it, I think that is what he proposed to us.
But there's no way to put a residential house on it. I mean, the pole barn's too large. It takes up most of the property.
Right.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, if I remember, and I'm going to go to a specific incident where there's a property that has they wanted to put a pole barn on it, but they couldn't put the house on it, but they were precluded from putting that structure on it because of the way the language in the ordinance read. And I think some of this addresses all of that, and that would go away, and that certainly would make some of the people be able to use their property more usefully and more productively, and be able to, as long as they meet the setbacks for housing and the structure, then they're meeting the ordinance, and I think that does away with that.
Right, that is our intent. And then we also, a lot of citizens currently use their vacant lots that they own for storage of just derelict vehicles or just vehicle parking or campers or whatever. And staff has had a lot of citizens approach us just requesting to build a pole barn or a garage so they could store their material in it, but we cannot allow that with how our Title 19 is currently written.
Thank you.
Councilman Martinez, it's a valid point of what you're bringing forward with that one building. I think though the way that building was built and when that building was built, it would still fall under the guidelines prior, so if there's not a resident inside that building within the 6 months, I think that's something that maybe Sean could have his staff look into, or
I guess what I
however
was
that
getting
works.
back was they said you had so many months to build a residential house on there.
Yeah.
6 months is what it was.
Okay, they did away with that.
Yes.
That's what we're proposing, yes.
Yeah.
It's proposed to be that,
Yes.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Any other discussion? All right, let's open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving on to ordinance first reading and waive the reading of amendment of Title 16 manufactured homes as recommended by the Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments. Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, I move to approve first reading and waive the reading of the ordinance amending Title 16 manufactured homes as recommended by Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, I think on page 25, they missed, this is just clerical, housekeeping thing. Let me go to page 25, and let me see if I can find what I'm talking about. Where is it? There, what was left in there, they struck all the words camping, parking, or something, and they missed this on page 25 somewhere in the middle of the language, and I can't find it right now, but for a second reading, we might find that and
Address
make
that.
sure that that was to come out also. Otherwise, I didn't have any questions on this.
So just another kind of insight with this. This allows for this to, taking the campers and stuff out of this, allows for development of RV parks and to be more efficient in a way. Instead, the way it was written in before, you had to have curb gutter, all this sidewalks, all that, and the way it was written in there is every space would have to have it. There's not even a single RV park in the city that is currently under the what's there. So that'll allow some development too by going in and adopting that in FPA 1194 also, and just getting them out of this section here. So.
Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, legal counsel, that was section 16-24080. The last two words, camping park.
Any other discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting, please?
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, moving down to executive session for Wyoming Statute 164405. Do I have a motion? Councilman Gardner?
I don't want to mess this up. Move to enter executive session at 11:12 p.m. per Wyoming State Statute 16-4-405 to consider or receive any information classified as considered by law.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to enter executive session at 11:13 p.m. Any discussion? All right, Lynn, will you open online voting?
It is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
What's this last ordinance?
No.